After Chamonix and Briançon in the past couple of weeks, the legendary climbing venues keep coming, and there are none more legendary than Arco, 5 kilometres north of Lake Garda, in the Trentino region of Italy. Over 16,000 people call Arco home, and with ancient cobbled streets, beautiful buildings, and enough climbing to last a lifetime, it's easy to see why they're a happy bunch. As if all that wasn't enough, there is sunshine and good food aplenty, so the competition is always a favourite amongst IFSC athletes and supporters alike. Arco has hosted an annual international climbing competition for the past 32 years, and the distinctive overhangs of the wall here have been graced by virtually every great rock climber in history. Yes, good afternoon and welcome to Italy. We should have been coming to you in the morning. Semi-finals got put back half an hour. Apologies for that, but Charlie Bosco here alongside Matt Groom. And Matt, this is an incredibly strong semi-final.
The lineup is amazing. A few competitors a little bit out of position for where we'd expect to see them. In men's comp, Stefano Ghisolfi coming out in 15th place, and Marcelo Bombardi again way down that order, so we're expecting them to step it up a little bit to get into that final position. And for the women, Ashima Shirashi, she's coming out 9th. Laura Rigora, she's in, Ashima Shirashi coming out 9th, Laura Rigora in 8th position. So a few of them just finding their way after a slightly tricky qualification round for them.
Yeah, all sorts of stories in today's semi-final. We'll bring you all that very shortly, but before we do that, let's have a quick recap of how the climbers got here in yesterday's qualifiers. Arco, the beautiful and historic town on the shore of Lake Garda, hosted qualifiers in extremely hot and humid conditions, which made life tricky for the climbers and provided us with some surprise results. A large crowd watched on and were treated to an excellent, if hot, day's entertainment. Adam Ondra is back at World Cups, but his 2 tops of the men's qualifying route was just one of the stories from the day. Joining Adam in the 2 tops club was Jakob Schubert, whose good winter of training is now paying dividends in IFSC lead season. Nobody else could manage 2 tops, so the battle between those two should be excellent in the forthcoming rounds. Mikael Mawem was the only one of the 3 male French climbers not to progress to semis, with Romain Desgrange and Thomas Yuan both through. Joining them will be the winner from last time out in Briançon, Alex Megos. Alex Megos, World Cup winner. Does it feel a bit different this time round now you've won a World Cup?
It feels quite a bit warmer than Briançon, but apart from that, not really, no.
How's the outdoor climbing translated? It seemed to work pretty well in Briançon.
Yeah, I think it does work. I think just having fun and getting a mind off the competitions works for me, so that's how I'm going with.
Okay, well, skip the cool down as well and jump in the lake.
That's a good plan.
In the women's qualifiers, Brooke Rabatou snuck through in 26th place. The tops were generally hard to come by, with Janja Garnbret taking 2, Anna Koven taking 1, and nobody else getting any. Team Italy, in their only home work of the year, had a bad day on the women's side of the event, with only one of their 9 climbers, Laura Rigora, through to semis. Team Austria fared much better, with 4 women safely into the next round, including finalist from Chamonix, Hannah Schubert, who went through in 4th place. So we're just behind the wall here at Arco with Hannah Schubert, fresh down from the first route. How did it go?
Yeah, doing really good. I think the preparation time worked out really well. And yeah, still can show like all I've got so far in the comps, but I'm feeling really good and I'm confident that I can show it at this comp.
Full results can be found at ifsc-climbing.org. Tomorrow, Saturday, is going to be a packed day with lead semi-finals live at midday, followed by speed finals and then lead finals in the evening. See you there. And here we are, live in Arco with the semi-finals. First climbers are already out, and there on the wall is Loic Timmermans. Made it through 26th place from the qualifiers, as ever. Climbers going in reverse order, so those who qualified highest climb last, and those who made it in by the skin of their teeth in 26th climb first. They still made it though, and if you're in the semi, you can be in the final. The key is to get here. And it was Loic Timmermans and Brooke Rabatou who took those 26th spots in the qualifiers yesterday, and we're watching Loic, and Brooke is underway on the women's route. As you look at the wall here in Arco, the men are on the orange panel, which is on the left as you look at the wall, and then to the right of the speed wall is the women's route, where we can just see on the bottom right of our screen Brooke Rabatou climbing.
Loic there doing the second of the sort of slightly dynamic, slightly jumpier moves that the route set has told us should be absolutely fine, but it is sweaty out here today. That is worth reminding everyone. It's very, very humid, although the wall is in the shade.
Yeah, conditions are likely to be pretty consistent throughout. I was chatting to Christian Bindhammer, who is the chief route setter here in Arco, former champion as well, won here in 2001, but now route setting, and he was saying the conditions don't really evolve much. The wall is in the shade throughout. It gets a bit of sun in the morning, particularly on the men's side, but that's long gone now. It's 25 to 1, so no more sun, and we wouldn't expect the conditions to evolve too much. Just humid throughout. And there you can see from the cable cam, a nice view of the Arco wall.
Brooke entering the first one of those little roof sections now. Though that women's route steps up throughout the route, ending up very, very high, very overhanging on the wall. She just got through that first little roof section.
It's quite a unique feature of the Arco wall here, that on that right-hand side you actually begin to climb back down towards the ground. It goes past horizontal and back down towards the ground. It's quite an unusual feature.
What was the terminology? Negative something they used to describe it? It was a negative something roof. I've never heard that described before.
No, I'd never climbed anything horizontal, let alone coming back down. So
I often climb negatively though.
Yes,
Might just be me.
Yeah, the climbing's been described as negative, just never the wall. So both Loic and Brooke going pretty well. 6 minutes of course for each climber. Loic really heading into the very steepest section of the wall here in Arco. The men's route just gets steeper and steeper and steeper. The women's route does the same, but then comes back down towards the ground, as we mentioned. As we lose Brooke around mid-height, we'll get a confirmed score as it comes through.
She fell there just before what the route setters reckon is one of the cruxes of the route. So she'll be a little bit disappointed with that, not to get into that crux section.
Yeah, just for future competitors on the women's route, you are looking for a purple volume. That's where they think the route really, really will begin to separate the top climbers. So Loic, as I said, going well on the men's route, which steepens gradually throughout and ends up pretty much in a horizontal route. Not quite horizontal, but more or less. And yeah, climbing really well. Not had the season he would have wanted so far, Loic, after a good 2017, but he's been training well. He's in good shape, and it's beginning to pay off here in Arco, because he was going really well on that men's route, and that looked like a slip rather than a mistake as such.
Yeah, he looked in complete control there, just matched that. Perhaps not quite enough space for his hands on that hold. A bit of sweat perhaps coming in there.
There is Loic looking back up. Yeah, look like the hands just popped, and I think we'll see that more and more in this final. It's incredibly humid here in Arco. If you're in the shade, as the wall is, you do escape the worst of the heat, but the humidity gets you wherever you are. And I think we will see the odd slip, and in terms of places in the finals, that could produce a few surprise results, because we could see climbers you'd be very certain of making the final slipping off, not having really made a mistake.
Yeah, that doesn't really kind of ease with the evening. I mean, I came in at like 9 o'clock last night, and it was so hot, so humid. So yeah, it doesn't get easier as the night wears on.
Ida Cups of Poland here on the women's route. Jan Hoyer is about to make his way onto the men's route. Jan really enjoying his foray into lead climbing, it would seem, over the past year or so, and we're enjoying watching him. He's quite open about the fact that he's not going to take any rest.
Really? Well, he just goes straight through.
I was next to him when he was route reading in Chamonix, and he was saying, "Can't rest there, can't rest there." No, the plan for Jan when he lead climbs is just to go as fast as he can until he's got nothing left, and it works really well. And with the Olympics coming up and climbers like Jan doing all 3 formats, you're going to need tactics. You're not going to be equally good at every discipline, and not every discipline will play to your strengths. Jan's got the power, he's got the strength, so when he's on a lead wall, just keep going. Don't try to be an endurance lead climber.
You're right. Great. It's working to your strengths, isn't it? It's knowing that you are a dynamic climber, or you've got limited amounts of power and you need to get it out as quickly as possible. Jan making that first, we saw Loic sort of jumping into that one. Jan just reached up.
Yeah, both pretty tall climbers, but Jan is slightly taller of the two. Ida, meanwhile, on the women's route, 19-year-old Polish climber. No issues so far on this lower section. Tops were hard to come by yesterday in the women's qualifiers. Janja Garnbret got 2, Annette Verhoeven got 1, nobody else got any. They were tough routes. But the point of the qualifying round, if you like, is to get 26 climbers through, and that's exactly what they did as we lose Ida again, coming over that steep section of the roof, not dissimilar from where we lost Brooke.
So Jan now making a clip. Just finding that rest, so went up, clipped, came down, had a little shake. You can see him now pressing on into that steeper section of the route.
He's very proud of the fact that in Vilar he chalked up 3 times across 3 routes. His chalking total for the weekend was 3. But he's certainly playing himself down a bit. I think he lead climbs an awful lot better than he'd have you believe.
Climbing quickly through the section now, kind of pushing through. Nice positive climbing from Jan. Making a decision, going for the move. Lack of faff. That's a great shot there, showing how small that handhold is. And I went and had a little feel of some of the holds earlier, and there's not a huge amount of texture on these things. So although they look like a good hold from afar, when you actually try to hold them, it's very difficult.
Catherine Chung of Switzerland is onto the wall, and again we lose Jan a lot lower than we would have expected.
Yeah, you can see him there. It looked like he was running out of steam a little bit. Went up for the next move, but just didn't quite have the power in him to get it done. Looking a bit frustrated in front of us now as he looks back up at the route, trying to work out what went wrong.
Yeah, Jan is still staring up at the wall. Catherine Chung is underway. I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, we've got a very interesting semi-final on both the men's and women's side today. It's a few climbers out of the positions you might expect in the semi-final. Doesn't, of course, mean they have any less chance of making the final, but qualifiers didn't go perhaps exactly as you might have expected.
Yeah, perhaps some tactics coming into play, saving themselves, knowing how energy sapping this place is to climb. And it's a packed weekend for them as well. A lot of athletes doing a lot of disciplines.
Yeah, there's also a non-IFSC boulder competition going on. We've got the speed, which a lot of climbers, including Jan, took part in this morning. It's an extremely busy weekend. I think Stashigeo is competing in all 3 disciplines today.
Yeah, true endurance fest for the athletes here.
Fedor Samoilov climbing next on the men's route. There he is, just come out bottom right hand side of your screen. Catherine Chung just taking it steady here in Arco, which I think is quite a wise plan. Every opportunity you get to chalk up, you really need to take, because it's amazing how quickly your fingers and your hands get sweaty here.
Yeah, she's been very, very precise so far coming through that bottom section, which is quite slopey. You need to hit the right part of the hold, mainly to save energy. I'm sure they can all hold on to them, but it's, unless you get that precise point on the hold, which is good, they're going to be burning through those energy reserves.
Again, neatly done on the jump, precise, got the timing, coordination just right. Fedor going well, it would seem, very early on the men's route. Out after Federer will be Jorg Verhoeven. Looking forward to seeing him back in the Lead World Cup semi-finals.
So here she is coming up to the crux, or well, what we didn't realise was the crux, but the section the other two have fallen on so far. She's just eyeing it up into that small sort of pinchy hold. This is where perhaps some of the athletes didn't quite read the sequence properly. See her battling with that crimp. Perhaps not looking 100% comfortable here.
Just to give you some idea of her progress, there are 50 handholds on that women's route, and that was Catherine going up for number 27, so that'll be a 26 plus. So just over halfway. It's a long wall here, particularly that right-hand side where the women's semi-final is.
Yeah, she had the heel in. I'm not sure that was the right way to go up for that. It just kind of trapped her a little bit to her body weight on the left-hand side. I think she needed to drop it down, get the toe to go up to that right-hand side of the volume.
This is Federer fighting over that lip on the men's route. Again, just to give you some orientation, 51 handholds on the men's route, and that's 20 and 21 that he's on now. So that's actually 23. The route setters have got that hold as 22, and then the big blue one as 23. So again, not halfway there in terms of number of holes. But the wall does get steeper and steeper, and it just encourages faster climbing because you cannot hang around long enough to really take your time through the next section.
It's interesting, I've been watching some of the athletes' shoe choices, a bolder style choice of shoe from a lot of them, and I think that's just because of the intensity and the overhang on this wall. Something nice and soft they want on your feet, rather than the stiffer soled versions of the shoes. That white section, there's not a lot of grip on them, so he's got his left foot on something very slippery.
Yeah, the dual texture volumes, the pink section's high friction, the white section is absolutely no friction at all. And you can see there, if you make a mistake with the sequence, you get spat off so quickly because you can't suddenly slap to any hold and hold yourself onto the wall. If you start to go, you've got to have a plan. Federer just got caught out slightly there. So Jorg Verhoeven will be climbing next. Eloise Dumont of Belgium will be underway on the women's route. She is underway. Going through the climbers quickly in this semi-final so far, and then you can see the crowd here in Arco. A few brave souls getting away from the shade of the huge trees in the venue and sitting in the full force of the sun. I cannot overstate how hot the sun is. We're in the shade here in the commentary box, but it is still incredibly hot, incredibly humid. Sweat running off everyone in the venue. So as I say, they're hardy souls out there in the full force of the sun.
We are, of course, cool, calm and collected at all times, not sweaty, not frazzled.
No, not at all.
Absolutely
no.
on it.
Absolutely not drenched head to toe in sweat and
No,
drinking
exactly.
a litre of water an hour. None of that.
So we're waiting for Jorg to come out. I love watching Jorg climb. He seems to have been around for ages and never ever gets less good. In fact, he just improves every year. Always strong and just very chilled, it seems, all the time. He's always having a good time.
He's just one of those climbers that can do everything.
True.
There's not many people who've had the all-round climbing career he has. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
He's looking in good shape, actually, looking quite lean. Certainly when he's more in bouldering mode, he's just got a little bit more muscle, but right now just looking very fit.
So you get a sense of scale there. Bear in mind the speed wall 15 meters high, so you get some idea of the scale of the wall. It is a long wall, as I say, particularly the right-hand side, which for the semi-final the women are climbing on. A lot of moves packed in. We've got a few climbers coming up later on who don't like to be rushed. They weren't a fan of the change from 8 to 6 minutes, and they don't like to be made to climb quickly, but they're going to have to here in Arco. Hold 20 and 21 there for Eloise. So again, not quite halfway. 50 holds on the women's route, 51 on the men's. Men on the left, women on the right, and the speed wall right in the middle.
Jorg making that little cutlass move, loose move, looking very easy. You can see the arete they're using on the left-hand side is very sharp. It's a good hold for the heels. It's a lot of purchase.
going really well here. Eloise Dumont heading up to holes 28 and 29. That yellow one out to the right is hole number 30. And then she's really getting into the sequence that the route setters believe is one of the big cruxes, up through the big pink volume, which will be in your shot very soon.
Yeah, they mentioned some kind of variation of a heel hook and then a left-hand crossover move. Well, that's how they thought it might go. There are a few options, of course, available for the athletes, depending how they read.
Yeah, there you can see that big pink volume. That's where the really tough crossover move is. She's got to get herself set for it first, so just about holds on with that left hand, but we lose her just before the cross through. Jorg, meanwhile, looks as if he's having to try hard here. You can just tell from his body language, he's just feeling the fatigue. They're not easy moves low down on that men's route. Couple of quite committing, almost jumps. It looks like he's just got something back in the last 30 seconds or so, and now he launches himself into the middle section. So this is pretty much bang on halfway on the men's route.
Yeah, so far all the athletes have had a little breather before this section and pushed through fairly quickly, trying to get into the next semi-rest.
It's a real resistance, endurance style route, this men's route. There's not really too many big tricks on it. There's no facing out, no parkour style moves. It's real resistance and endurance climbing, quite traditional style, but you're climbing it really, really well. That's hole 30 we lost him in the vicinity of. Very early days. Just to let you know, Eloise Dumont did set a new high point on the women's route, 31 for her. And then 26, 26 and 26 plus the other three scores we've had.
Jorg came down full of smiles then, but he's now sort of shaking his head. I think he knows that if he had read that slightly differently, he could have got through that section. It's amazing. The more I watch these competitions, it's all about that route reading. It's all about seeing the route and working out that sequence. And that might sound obvious, but I think often when you climb, you think, left hand, right hand, and it's fairly straightforward. These routes are so technical as well as being physical that unless you get the sequence, you just don't stand a chance, regardless of how strong you are.
And I think most recreational climbers, and I'd include myself in this, climb routes where if you can't do a tricky bit, you climb down a bit, you chalk up, you have a think. The routes here don't allow for that. The setters set them in a way that if you blow a sequence, you're not going to get it back. You're not going to recover. You've got to read it right, and you've got to get it right the first time. There is no down climb into a good previous spot. You've got to keep going, and you've got to get it right. Hannes Puman here, semi-final, IO 08 of Japan. Climbing on the women's route. 5th climbers out, both the men's and women's side. So the cadence of climbers coming out about the same. I think a big factor in that will be that after 3 to 4 minutes, you have just reached a stage where you can't keep your hands dry. The friction is just really getting to you. You are having to over grip to compensate for the lack of friction. So I could happy to be corrected, but I'd be surprised if we see many climbers getting towards the end of their time limit.
Need a midpoint liquid chalk up point. Just like a cherry picker they can climb onto, gets that liquid chalk out.
Maybe a dispenser, like a soap dispenser on the side.
I'll have a chat with the route setters. We'll set it up for them. I could just throw liquid chalk at them from afar. One for my CV, that.
I think it's good when you find your level.
Yeah, my calling more.
Aya looking nice and controlled on this women's route. As I said earlier, conditions difficult, and I think a lot of climbers will find that suddenly they're not as in control as they were when the friction really begins to decrease and they just can't keep their hands dry. But as it stands at this stage, she's looking solid on that women's route. Ditto Hannes Puman, albeit very low down on the men's route. Dozen or so moves in for Hannes. Aya pulling over the lips, slightly more hurried in her movements now, and you can see the scores coming across the top of your screen. It's Belgium leading the way. Eloise Dumont did set a new high point at 31, and Lotte Timmermans still leading the way on 37.
I think it's worth mentioning the women's wall does have a few features that stand out from the wall apart from just the holds. They're very, very small. but if you've got a good pair of edging shoes on, you can stand up. You can see her now just on that right foot on a tiny little edge. Here's this cross-through move we're talking about.
This will be a new high point for Aya. She's the first climber to make it through onto that volume, and she looked spectacularly untroubled by that move. Yeah, that move up to that arrowhead that she's currently got her left hand on is said to be one of the trickier moves on the route. That is one of the trickier moves on the route, slapping up with the right hand, but it will be a new high point for Aya. She will lead the way. I'm just looking at my route map. I think that will be a 33 plus for her. We wait and see, but I'm pretty sure that'll be a 33 plus, which, as I say, will be 3 moves or so higher than the previous high point from Eloise Dumont, and is a new high point on the women's route. Hannes Puman, meanwhile, been in finals before. He's capable of making them. How can he deal with the conditions here in Arco? It's around midway on the men's route. That's hole 25-26 areas. It's about halfway. Second Japanese climber in a row on the women's route, Yuki Hiroshiga. It's just chalking up and going through her final individual observation period.
Hannes having trouble there on that clip. He went up for it and then just lost his left foot. Down climbed a little bit. You can see him with the rope over his hand, ready for the clip. We just had to reposition there.
Seems like it's been more of a feature of Lead World Cups than in previous years this year, the clipping. We seem to have a lot of people struggling with clips. I'm not sure if it's the setting style, adjusting to the new 6 minutes more than it did last year. I don't know, it feels like clips have been a big feature.
I'm glad. Clips are a big feature when I climb. It's hard work to clip a clip.
That's all I can think about is getting to the next one.
Exactly. Desperation comes in.
So Hannah's flying up onto the increasingly steep roof here in Arco. He's going really well.
And it's his left leg shaking there. You can see the amount of pressure he's putting through it.
Yeah, we lose him around the hole 34 mark, so it's not going to be a new high point. That'll put him, I think, in second place as it stands still, of course, very, very early on, as Hiroto Shimizu will be next to try his luck on the men's route, so it will be all Japan on the wall, a not unfamiliar situation in the IFSC in the past few years. This is Yuki Hiroshiga.
In Japan, again, bringing a big team here to compete, and all of them strong, it seems.
Missing some of their big guns. We mentioned it last week in Briançon. We don't have Akira Noguchi, we don't have Mihono Naka, we don't have Hanwoo Kim or Jane Kim from South Korea, because they are training for the upcoming Asian Championships. So a few of the names you might expect to see really at the business end of this World Cup, not here. Jane Kim, such a consistent finalist, her absence does open up what would almost certainly have been her final slot for someone else. And we saw it last week in Briançon, where climbers you might not have seen in finals before suddenly making that breakthrough. What will we get here this week? One man that made a big breakthrough last time was Hiroto. We, before isolation in Briançon last week, we were getting all the climbers to do a little 10-second piece to camera where they could wave or do whatever they wanted to do. And I said to Hiroto, can you do a backflip as a joke? And he went, yeah, sure. Just in a car park in Briançon with no warning, did a backflip and landed on his feet.
What would you have done if he had an injury in that moment? You'd have to explain to the team.
Oh, I instantly went into bowing and scraping it. No, please, I really only meant it as a joke. You know, I really wanted to get it out there. There was no pressure, but yeah, he just so incredibly athletic. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen anyone do it in the flesh.
You can see the headlines now. Charlie Bosco breaks athlete.
Lose Yuki there. She was just around the hole 26-27 mark. So Hiroto finds himself alone on the wall. Chamonix winner from 2017, Marcello Bombardi, will climb after him on the men's route. and we await the arrival of Katharina Posch of Austria. The 24-year-old Austrian climber will be out next onto the women's route. 26 men and 26 women as ever in the semi-finals. There are no ties around the 26th place, so we have got the regulation 26 men, 26 women. They each have 6 minutes to climb, but given how hot and humid it is here in Arco, I'd be surprised if many of them use all 6 minutes. You need to get up these routes, you need to read them right, you need to be efficient, and you need to get it done quickly.
You can see every athlete who's been out so far covered it in liquid chalk as a base layer. You can see it on the back of the hand there. And liquid chalk, if you don't know, you kind of squeeze it on your hands, you wave your hands around a bit and chalk magically appears on them, but it just lasts a little bit longer than normal powdered chalk. And of course, powdered chalk in their chalk bag, they top up mid-route. Liquid chalk giving them a nice little base layer to climb on.
That's one of those jump moves that we've been mentioning. No problems from Hiroto.
So strong there. Do you see that, having to readjust that right foot? Almost a one-armed pull-up adjustment. So strong.
Katharina Posch is underway on the women's route, still only at the second clip. We'll keep an eye on her.
Milking this rest here, knowing the next section he's got to be moving quickly.
Yeah, Hiroto choosing to take a rest and chalk up. And now he's on to the 20th hold. He's done 40% of the route. Now he's on his way again. Katja Posch about to enter the first change of angle on the women's route. Hiroto going well through this middle section. It really begins to kick in here, the men's route. It's just resistance, endurance, the moves just keep on coming. He's resting a lot though. He looks incredibly comfortable on these holds. You can see there IS sets a new high point on the women's route. A couple of climbers ago, 33 plus, and it's still Loic Timmermans out in first place in the men's.
You can see him there, avoiding that dual texture top at the moment. Very wise, I wouldn't want to stand on it.
You can see there's a bit of a breeze picking up in Arco. Our camera mounted on the wall, just shaking slightly. It's partly from the movement of the climbers on the wall, but they are also affected by the wind. And there is a bit of a breeze picking up. The umbrellas around the venue and the flags are also beginning to flutter, so conditions perhaps slightly improving. The wind does tend to arrive here early afternoon around lunchtime. It seems to be the case again today.
Really is an incredible atmosphere here in Arco. Everywhere you look there's a climber. Everyone seems to be a climber. And you're surrounded in this venue by these colossal walls. If you look slightly to your right, when looking at the climbers, you can see tiny little dots of people on multi-pitches. So it is a truly, truly climbing heavy location to be in. There's a lot of history here.
Hiroto beginning to write his own history in this semi-final. He's approaching Loic Timmermans' high point. Still not quite there yet, a couple of moves away from it, but looking so composed. He's taken every opportunity going to shake out, to rest, to recover. Not the tactics we've seen from most of the climbers who've wanted to just get moving, keep moving. But this is likely to be a new high point on the men's route. He's beginning to look tired, and I think we lost him. We did, sorry, we just cut away at the crucial moment. We did lose him on that move.
So he's going to see a replay in a minute of that fall. And as Charlie said, he was looking strong, he was looking in control. Shame to lose him.
And again, we lose Katja Posch, and that around that whole 30 mark. And she looks very, very frustrated with herself. Let's have a look at a replay of Hiroto. Apologies, we just had a technical problem at the crucial moment. This was him moving off hold 37. Let's see, was it a slip? He was beginning to look tired, and it came quite quickly, it seemed, the fatigue.
Seems like his right hand sort of peeled off there.
Yeah, not really a slip. I think it was just fatigue suddenly kicking in, pump suddenly arriving. So, Marcello Bombardi in front of his home crowd.
Yeah, he was one of the athletes we're expecting to be a little bit higher up this order list. So he's going to be keen to make amends for that perhaps qualifying hiccup in the semi-final. Very popular climb, of course. Charlie said home crowd. You can see everyone. We can see the crowd from where we're standing, and everyone's kind of perked up interest here.
Well, the interest is about to perk up again as well, because Laura Rigor has just made her way out onto the stage. So in front of the Italian crowd, it is all Italy on the wall. Marcello Bombardi on the left. There he is. We haven't seen her on the screen yet, but believe me, Laura Rigor is also climbing. She's literally just pulled off the ground on the women's route. You can see her there on the right-hand side of your screen as our cable cam pans across. It's the most spectacular venue here in Arco, and as Matt said, the most spectacular town, surrounded by thousands and thousands of routes of via ferrata, thousands of kilometers of mountain biking. It is an outdoor paradise. The only slight problem you've got in July and August is that the thermostat seems to be broken.
It's all right, there's a lake that we were swimming in this morning, cooled us down.
And we'll be back there after the semi-final.
Yeah. Laura Rigor looking strong. She's mentored in a way by Stefano Gasolfi. Every time I seem to go and visit him, she's there. And you can see that influence in the way she climbs. Finding a few of those moves fairly reachy early on.
It's worth remembering as well just how small Laura Rigor is. She really is tiny. She's as well as slim. She just makes it work for her, but as Matt said, a few of those moves just look a bit more reachy for her than they might for other climbers. Marcello, no problem with the dynamic move. The legs fired out quite a lot, but the route setters said they're not really hard moves, but they're slightly committing. You've got to go for them. They're only hard if you dawdle, but if you do exactly what Marcello did, just go full tilt, they're not too hard, but they're psychologically quite taxing.
I love that. No dawdling on the route.
No dawdling allowed. Obviously the Italian MC getting right behind their two athletes. And they're both at reasonably similar heights on the wall. Laura just heading on to the 20th hold. And Marcello around hole 25. So Japan leading the way in both the men's and the women's, with Belgium second in both the men's and the women's as it stands. Still very early days, of course. Marcello Bombardi, the 7th climber out. Laura Rigor, the 8th woman out.
Marcello climbing very quickly. Already really powering through those that bottom section of the route. And Laura looking like a lot of these moves just on the very edge of her reach. She's having to work hard for it. You can see her shaking out again there with that heel hook locked in. Looking like she's really having to battle for this route. Into this pinch. This is a powerful move. She's right at the bottom of it, adjusts into the middle, and finally eventually on top of the hold.
So she's still got half a dozen or so moves to go before she'll be up to that big purple volume where the crux of the route really kicks in. Marcello, meanwhile, he's on the Starfish blue volume. About 2/3 of the way up the route, but really having to fight now. You could tell that was on the limit. But the high point now, 3 or 4 moves away. As we lose Laura Rigor, she has her head on her hands. I was focusing on Marcello. I didn't actually see the fall, and again we lose Marcello.
Yeah, Laura's on the blue volume, just kind of slapping up to the pinch section, and just, I don't think she ever quite looked comfortable throughout that whole section, throughout the whole route, really. Yeah, you can tell she's gutted. She walks away straight out of the venue there. Bit of a disappointment for her.
So next out on the women's route will be Ashima Shirishi. Max Rudiger will be out next on the men's route. What a season he's having. Here comes Ashima, made her World Cup debut here in Arco last year. She hasn't missed a final in a lead World Cup, but she hasn't yet won a lead World Cup. Is this the weekend? And that is the scene here in Arco. Judges and technical staff down the front of the wall.
Ashima still winning the Mac Room's Best Trouser Prize award. Stunning, stunning shorts there.
I think it's a lifetime award, actually. I think she's got that sewn up long term.
Sewn up, nice, nice.
Oh yeah,
it's good, it's good, it's good. Don't get me started on the puns.
She's got some serious competition at times from Alex Megos, but he's never really challenged her.
Nah, Ashima's got it.
This is Max Rudiger of Austria. At times this year has looked absolutely superb in Vila. You might remember in the semi-final, he topped the route and looked like he could have done a second lap. Absolutely capable of challenging here. Won a medal here last year in Arco. And there is Ashima emerging from behind the umbrellas that are sheltering the route setters and the IFSC officials from the worst of the sun.
Yeah, you mentioned that breeze earlier, Charlie. It's starting to really blow now, which is a bit of a relief for the athletes and us. Just as important. Less sweat down here in the commentary box.
This is Max Rudiger of Austria, Ashima Shirishi on the right. Charlie Bosco and Matt Groom live here in Arco. Apologies, we're about half an hour behind time. We were expected to be starting at midday. Ended up starting at 12:30 due to the speed climbing overrunning slightly. We will have the speed final for you at 6 p.m. tonight as well.
So Ashima climbing cleverly so far, taking the rests. Just about to enter into this first roof section. Where things kick up a notch. Max looks like he means business right now.
He has done all season, yeah. He's looking super strong. This men's route, you can see though, climbers looking very comfortable, and then suddenly it just really begins to kick in around this section. The next 10 or so moves are really where people are beginning to fight the fatigue. But Max, as you say, he's looked really solid in the lower section. He just needs to keep that up, but also keep a pretty good pace going.
Not many athletes resting there, that high heel. See if that gives him a little boost into this section here. He's just looking so strong.
He looks so confident in his movements, so sure of his movements.
Ashima coming out to where we lost Laura earlier.
Yeah, just pulling over the roof on the hole 25, the midpoint of the women's route. Max now on the Starfish, and I have to say looking as solid as anyone who's got to this stage on the route, but you just cannot help getting pumped now. Not helped by the humidity, because you have to grip that tiny bit more. You're not quite as confident. Just got to be absolutely certain with every hold, and that just makes the fatigue that bit worse.
Ashima had a bit of an issue there, and we can see as she falls. She tried to make the clip when she was waist level with it, couldn't do it, down climb the move, had to clip and then reclimb that section, and I think that just cost her.
Again, we lose Max on that critical section. He looks absolutely furious with himself.
That's been the reaction of a few athletes coming down from there. I think they know it's attainable, it's doable. They've just slightly messed it up, and it's got to be so frustrating.
So next out, Katja Kadic. Looking forward to seeing her in the lead World Cup. Taito Nakagami will be climbing next on the men's route. Both climbers head in. The women just climbing at this stage slightly quicker than the men. We've had 9 women out and 8 men, so this is the 10th woman out, and it will be our 9th male climber. It is Katja. Excellent bouldering season, second excellent bouldering season in a row for her. Now we find her on the lead wall. There is Taito Nakagami. Remember, we're looking for 8 men and 8 women to go through to the final this evening. We don't really want any ties. We want 8 of each. The route setters under pressure to get climbers falling at different stages. We don't want big ties and count back to the previous round.
I do feel so sorry for them. They look the most stressed out of everyone in the venue right now, just looking up, seeing if their creations work, whether the moves they've meticulously planned out actually go the way they think they are, or whether someone manages to heel hook cheat their way through it, send the crux in an instant.
I think what's amazing is how often they do get it right.
Yeah.
When you look back, there's very few lead routes or boulders where you think, oh, that really didn't work. It's a quite extraordinary success rate for the route setters.
I've said it before, but it is an art form, it really is. To be able to read and plan.
This is music to a route setter's ears. They love being called artists.
They are paying me for this, don't worry. No, but it's incredibly impressive, and it's a skill that can't be overestimated. It's incredible. So surrounding us here at the venue, there's various stands selling climbing shoes, climbing gear, just adding to this atmosphere.
Yeah, all the advertising around here says Arco, the home of climbing. That's wrong.
That's
yeah,
fair.
I'll give him that. This is Katja. She's the first of 4 Slovenian women in the semi-final. We've got Mina Markovic, Chasa Kalan, and Janja Garmbret still to come. Suddenly the pace just slows, the music changes in the venue. We've got some mellow piano music.
It's got to start talking about art just then. I've sensed it.
Katja getting shouted on by a large and vocal Slovenian team. And as she made a slight route reading error there, I think she has. She just needed to get that right foot a bit higher up. Not only does it make the move a bit shorter, it also makes it a bit more stable. And she looks frustrated with herself.
Yeah, it's a big hold if you get it, but if you go low like she did, it's very, very difficult to readjust.
So just past halfway, Taito on the men's route. His compatriot Yuki Hado will follow him out onto the men's route. We've got Stasha Geo climbing next on the lead route. As I said, competing in 3 disciplines here in Arco today. No rest for the wicked.
Yeah, you should check out her Instagram feed. Makes you realise quite how busy some of these athletes are. She's been doing everything.
Taito up to the starfish. There you can see it is the most spectacular setting for a lead wall. They do pick the venues, the IFSC, for the lead walls. Taito going well, heading up to the 6 sides octagon volume.
Don't look at me when you say this. I've said before, I've got no idea.
So now he's really looking in control, but it's that move out to the left that's stopping a lot of the climbers, and it stops Taito. I think he knew he wasn't going to do it. He didn't bother even looking at the clip. If he had done the move, he might have been in a spot of bother trying to get back to get the clip done.
Started there with some big taping on her arm, usually a preventative measure rather than an injury. Just give a bit of support to that area of the body. It's a good move, that. I love that. That change of direction, twisting him with the feet.
approaching halfway in both the men's and the women's semi-final. There will be a cleaning break after 13 climbers as ever, just to give you some idea of where we're at. Stasha, the 11th climber out. Still to come, the French duo of Julia Chanaudy and Hélène Yannico before the cleaning break. Now, how has all this climbing in so many disciplines affected Stasha? This would be interesting to see.
I mentioned earlier about the shoes. She's got one of the softest shoes on the market there. Those Furias. Really allows you to smear in, hook above your head. The boulder in her coming out.
So Yuki Hada walks up to the wall and he gets underway on the men's route. Italian climber out next, Francesco Vetterato. What can Yuki do though? I think to make the final you're going to need to have a pretty good go at that 37-38 move or get past it from what we've seen. I think anything below that you won't have much of a chance, but as we see more and more climbers, it'd be interesting to see if people really do get through that move or if that does become the point, the cut-off for the final. Yuki got a long way to go before that though. So this is where we lost Katja. How will Stasha read it? Katja was launching from that lower right foot where Stasha's currently hooking her heel. She's going to use it as well. Completely different method, much more powerful, but seemed to work. Just needs to find a way of getting that right foot engaged and does so. You see there, top of your screen, Japan leading the way, men's and women's.
Yeah, change of styles there. A lot of the other athletes been slapping up for that right hold and dropping it, but she just reached very calmly. Perhaps a bit taller, perhaps body just in a slightly better position. Stasha going well, approaching the crux here, this cross-through move.
Yeah, she might tell us afterwards when we ask her, but she doesn't look as if she's too pumped at this stage. She looks like there's definitely something left. You can just see a bit of a grimace on her face. She is having to try hard, but she still looks like she's got some energy left.
Now we were talking about the different possibilities on that move. She didn't use a left cross through at all, went up with the right hand, and actually made it look pretty simple. Certainly less of an intense move going up right.
And again, it's that move up to hold 34. It's causing a lot of problems. Stasha, it seems, went from looking reasonably fresh to quite tired quite quickly there. Julia Chanaudy will be climbing next on the women's route. Yuki Hada is climbing on the men's.
Yeah, Yuki doing all types of swinging around shenanigans there, trying to find different rest positions and just work out that little sequence. It is techie. Into these quite good round holds with a little crimp on the edge of them. Takes a moment to chalk up. He knows he's got to move quickly through this next section. A little falter with the clip there. Starting to snatch now, intensity ramping up.
Yeah, he's still got quite a way to go as well before he gets into that section that's so far been really separating the climbers, but you can see just how quickly he's snapping up for the clip. That fatigue becoming an issue. Julia Chanaudy underway on the women's route. We saw her walking into the venue this morning in Arco. Looked calm, collected, very focused. She's not quite followed up 2017 with the year she would have wanted so far in 2018. Is this a place where she begins to put that right?
Yeah, she's had a few disappointments, and she's one of those athletes you sort of almost expect to be up there, and it's a surprise when she's not.
Yuki really cutting loose on that starfish volume. Now he's onto what is proving to be the crux section at this stage of the men's route. He looked tired about 10 moves ago, but he seems to have somehow got something back. Really hard once you get pumped, particularly in these humid conditions, to calm down and get settled and start climbing well again. But he's definitely found something from somewhere. And now he needs to come out towards our cameras to this long pink volume that we were right next to a couple of seconds ago. And again, it'll be that 37 plus. I wouldn't have thought the judges will award him that hold as being controlled. He got a good hand on it, but he was never really in control of it. So we'll focus on Giulia. Francesco Vetterata, third Italian climber in the semi-final. Next onto the men's route.
Yeah, Giulia climbing cleverly, had a slight pause before that bigger move there, wanted to make sure it was perfect. You don't want to drop it early on. She just drops down there, shaking out. It's a good hold, her left on there, almost a jug for these guys anyway. Not a jug for me, but a jug for them. Now this is worth watching if we get a close-up of this, yeah, from this angle. That right hand, which she's avoiding actually, so most of the athletes have been going up with the right hand and then matching where she's got it now. It's a slightly different approach from her. Taking out a whole move, and that just shows her level of experience, the fact she can read that and just go through the section without that readjust the other guys have been making.
So you can see there the pink volume just coming into the shot at the top of your screen. That's where the route really seems to kick in. There is Francesco, went really well yesterday in the qualifiers. What's he got today?
Oh, Julian nearly losing it just before the crux there.
Yeah, she hasn't quite reached the pink volume. That hold looks like the one above the pink volume, which we just saw Stasha going towards. Giulia looking slightly fatigued all of a sudden. The movement's just becoming that bit more snappy, and she needs to find a way of getting her feet underneath her, because when you get your feet out to the side like that, it's such a powerful position to try and hang on to. And we lose her entering that crux section around hole 31, 32. I have to say that almost certainly not going to be enough for the final, especially when you look at the caliber of climber still to come.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's a formidable list, as we were saying earlier, and those top guys coming out, they're really on form. So, yeah, probably not enough to make it through.
Helen Janicou of France will be the last climber out before the cleaning break. Helen was actually part of the route setting team in Chamonix, not competing. Back on the wall. See there, Stasha, we were talking about whether fatigue might be a problem. 33 plus, currently leading the way. Tied on score with Aya, but count back to the previous round, working in Stasha's favour. Loic Timmermans, he held the high point for quite a while in this men's semi-final, but now beginning to move down the order, and you fear that fourth place probably not going to be enough. Long way to go though, we shall see. We've seen climbers this season set early high points, have a long wait, and then make it into the final. Sasha Lehmann in Chamonix springs to mind for that one. Francesco through the slightly committing jump up to the blue holes on the pink volumes.
It's interesting what Helene set off there. She kicked off some covers for her shoes, just presumably on that walk through from the isolation area to the front. She doesn't want to get her shoes scuffed up, dirty. Maybe more of a psychological thing. She just knows that when she pulls on, she wants everything to be perfect and precise.
Yeah, well, we don't have Jane Kim at this World Cup, but she has a particularly fetching pair of flip-flops that she comes out in. Well, not really flip-flops, like sandals.
Crocs, like Crocs?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. They make her about 2 inches taller. But no, it's worth thinking about, because the floor, just inevitably, from having climbers and photographers and officials walking around on it, is not especially clean. Could make the difference. Francesco, halfway on the men's route.
Heavy taping on that middle finger there, you can see. There's a nice toe hook there, looking comfortable.
Yeah, it's this dozen or so moves coming up now that are really the key. got to get through them, you've got to read the sequence perfectly, you've got to save some energy, and you have to be very, very efficient.
Yeah, I think for the men's route you can just suddenly see it kick in, and it's almost a surprise to the athletes themselves. They get through that sequence and suddenly realise quite how gone they are. And you can see here he's having to really fight for it, hold himself on the wall. Looking in trouble now, yeah.
Yeah, as you said, Matt, it almost seems to come as a surprise to them as well as us watching on. They suddenly just get super tired, seemingly from nowhere. Helen going well, needs to get that clip sorted. She's in a bit of an awkward position, that quick draw. It's just sitting in her lap. It's just awkward when you've got to pull it away from the wall to get it clipped like that.
That's where we saw Ashima having to down climb that because she couldn't fiddle it in from that angle. Cost her dear eventually.
So no one on the men's side of things progressed past 37 plus, and 33 plus still the high point on the women. So no one's actually yet nailed that move off the big pink volume, and then the next climber to try their luck on it needs to get there first. But other than that clip, this has been a pretty good smooth effort so far. She's the 13th climber out, so there will be a cleaning break after she's finished. Now she launches onto the pink volume. Looking solid, as I said. It's onto that arrowhead shaped hold. Now we saw Julia snatching at these moves. Helen looking like there's a bit more left in the tank, but it's this move up to the big rounded yellow hold that stopped everyone so far. No one has yet latched that big yellow hold. Can Helen do it? Yes, she can. That will be a new high point for Helen Janigo going into the cleaning break. That's hole 34. No one else has managed to hang on to it. People have touched it, they haven't managed to stay on it. So every move now takes her further and further away from her competitors. She will go into the cleaning break and back into isolation and then into the warm Arco sun with a high point. And every move she can push it, she gets further and further ahead. We lose her eventually around the whole 36, 37 mark. Either way, she's at least 3 moves clear of anyone else at this stage.
Yeah, that clip was going to be a problem if she managed to get that. She was trying to get a sort of a toe bat hang style move to make the clip. Looked very, very awkward. Yannick Flo on the wall now.
Yeah, Yannick Flo is compatriot Christian Binthammer, our chief route setter here in Arco. I mentioned it earlier, he won himself in Arco in 2001. He's climbed 9A plus outdoors. He's not too shabby.
Yeah, it's pretty good pedigree that, isn't it?
Well, when I said to you, yeah, he climbed Action Direct, what did you say? Oh, it's just a boulder problem.
Yeah, I said, yeah, who hasn't? Having trouble with the I don't mean that, by the way, ladies and gentlemen watching. I do appreciate how hard that climb is.
So if you see Matt Graham filming in the Frankenjury, just tell him to jump on. It's only a boulder problem. So sandbagged yourself there, haven't you?
Oh, I love it when you get me into trouble. I do like the Frankenjury though. What an area that is.
Sorry if you're feeling slightly dizzy at home, you're not alone. Camera spinning around there. We'll focus on Yannick Flo, the 12th climber in the men's semi-final. We've had 13 women out, so the women's route is currently being cleaned. Yannick is climbing well on the men's route.
It's interesting watching that clip. A lot of the athletes doing it in different ways or making the clip in different positions there. Not sure which one is best at the moment, but they all seem to manage that fairly easily, and it's here that things start to really ramp it up.
Yannick, the feet just cut loose unexpectedly, but he looks solid despite that. But now it just adds that element of extra fatigue. It's the last thing you need. You need everything to go smoothly on a route this steep, this endurance-based, and in conditions this humid. just that tiny cut loose of the feet will have cost him a bit of energy. Top of your screen there, you can see it's that 37 plus move that's causing problems on the men's side. Elen Janiko pushing through that 33 plus area as we use Yannick Floe. Yeah, just pushing through that 33 plus area. First climber to really get beyond that. And Masahiro Higuchi, the last male climber out before the men's route gets a climb. Gets a clean.
We'd like to see a climb as well.
We would like to see it climbed as well, but just not by a route setter.
We've got one of our route setters actually getting set up for a little chat now, I think. Charlie's just having a word with him while the women's route is getting cleaned. And it is needed because we said before, and we mentioned it many times, it's humid conditions and those holds do get greasy. You can see the route setter, well, you can't see it quite, but the route setter on the right hand side just giving everything a bit of a spring clean, making sure it's ready for the next set of athletes to come out.
And we've just been joined by a very special guest in the commentary box, our chief route setter here in Arco, Christian Bindhammer. Christian, we're just looking at the scores. Are you quite happy with how the semi-final is going so far?
Yes, so far I think we are on the right direction. The same is you see that nobody was falling too early, but still there are intense moves in the first part, which makes the climbers a little bit nervous. And you see that if you don't get really well into the route, then you spend too much power in the first part. You climb a little bit too slow, and then you don't have the real power for the hard moves at the top, which is at the moment I would say the crux at the triangular pink holds. You have to read right to put the real foot position to match this hold, because it's very hard, and then you have to climb also very, very well in the first part to have that power to do this move. And I think if you will arrive the roof, you will do the final, you know, today.
Yeah,
so
that will be enough.
This is around what we expect, and of course we hope that we will see one top in the men's route. And for the girls, it's also like in the flat part of the wall, it starts that you have to fight. And there you have to go quite fast over the hard moves. And if you spend too much time there, it's the same thing that you not proceed for the negative roof, you know. And we saw already one girl in the negative roof. So, but I think the strong climbers at the very end of the field, they will do the negative roof for sure. And then we hope also there for one or two tops.
We'll just keep an eye on Masahiro Higuchi here, but the conditions today are very humid. Are these the same conditions you set in, or is it hotter and more humid today?
No, today I think it's the same. You see that the wind is blowing a little bit. The heat is there, but the wind is more important. And they have the wind, so I think, yeah, it's quite okay conditions for one try.
Are the conditions on the wall better than they are on the floor? Because here it's so hot. But can you really feel the wind when you're on the wall?
Yeah, on the wall you can feel the wind a little bit more. So it's not a problem of the friction. It's more the problem how you climb the route. If you climb smoothly the route, if you are not so nervous in the first part that you press too much on the holds.
Okay, Christian, we'll let you go. Thank you very much, and good job so far. Nice semi-final.
Thank you very much.
Happy sounding route set, and that's what we want. Doing the business so far. I mean, these guys know that the further down the order we're going to see athletes who are more capable of topping these routes.
Yeah, and I think it's something I'm guilty of. You kind of panic sometimes early on in the semi-final because you think, oh no, they've overcooked it. But they generally get it right, and I think they'll have been relieved to see Elen Janiko kind of piercing that upper section of the route. We could do the breakthrough on the men's, but as you say, obviously it's very theoretical, but in theory we should have increasingly strong climbers as the semi-final progresses. But interesting insight there from Christian Bindhammer, and also interesting to hear that the wind has such an effect on the wall. We can't really feel it where we are, so we're in really the worst conditions, which obviously doesn't matter at all. What's important is that on the wall they're actually a bit better than they might seem here on the ground.
What's nice about this Arco wall is it is a permanent feature, so it's always here. So these route setters, they get to work with it all the time. It never changes, so they're very aware of it and how to set it.
So this is Masahiro Higuchi. Apologies to him, we haven't mentioned it much because we were chatting to Christian Bindhammer, but I was watching the screen while Christian was talking, and Masahiro looking pretty controlled, and you can just see which section of the wall he's entering. This semi-final route here in Arco becoming increasingly familiar. He's heading up to the big, I think it's an octagon.
Told you, anything over a square.
It could be 8 sides.
It's not a circle.
Yeah. GCSE maths feels a long time ago.
That was a long time ago.
Speak for yourself. So Masahiro now, it's that crucial 37 move, and it's the same sequence we lost him on. That won't be 37 plus for him, there'll be 36 plus. But it's definitely that sequence that's proving to be the stumbling block.
Yeah, it's going to need to clean that section. You have to match it, and there isn't a lot of room on it, and it's just going to get, because it's the high point for a lot of athletes, it's going to get more and more greasy, so that will benefit from a bit of a scrub. You can see him there just going for it, holding it for a fraction of a second for that heartbreaking fall. Oh, sorry about that, we've got a spin going on.
Okay, well, it seems that both routes are going to be cleaned simultaneously, at least for a couple of minutes, so instead of watching the cleaning break, let's have a look at a chat I had yesterday with the Rabatou family.
My name's Brooke Rabatou. I'm a rock climber and I come from Boulder, Colorado.
So my name is Robin Urbisfield Rabatou. My daughter is Brooke Rabatou, and I've been climbing for longer than I probably want to announce. Watching Brooke feels very similar to my competition days. I have just enough nervous energy to have to calm myself when she's climbing, just like when I was climbing myself. I always had to manage the stress in a way that was positive versus negative. So it's interesting.
My parents never put pressure on me to climb. It's what I do. I climb for fun. I compete. It's all fun.
I think I'm one of the lucky ones that both of my kids, both Sean and Brooke, love climbing. So I don't think that I did anything particular, so I didn't really see it coming. We just climbed as a family. I always took my kids climbing. They always climbed in the gyms when I was climbing. When I was coaching, they traveled with me to do clinics around the world. And so they've just sort of grown up with climbing right at their feet, and somehow they absolutely love it. And I feel very lucky. I don't know how much I had to do with their love. I think it's really them.
It's pretty amazing. There's so many memories here. I mean, my parents won these World Cups. I wasn't alive, but and then I used to do the youth comp here when I was like 7. I did it for a few years, so it's cool coming back and like remembering little things.
So Arco's very special for me for all the reasons, not just because of my performance, but also because the town of Arco is so special. The people here are just so proud of climbing, and I think the community is just amazing.
Yeah, Arco is definitely a special place for our family.
I would say that my career in climbing and my success in climbing, with lots of wins, lots of podiums, lots of traveling, and working for my sponsors and traveling as a team and with other athletes, was pretty amazing. In fact, the only thing more amazing is having my 2 children. So I certainly love for Brooke to have that experience. It's special, and I think it's great that she gets to have that experience, and I hope she continues to enjoy it as much as I did.
It's great to be competing in Arco, and I'll see you guys.
Yeah, really interesting chat there with the Rabatous, Brooke's mum and dad, previous winners here in Arco. And we're underway again with the women's semi-final. Tina Johnson Hafsas is on the wall of Team Norway. Men's route still being cleaned. I'm just looking up. I think they might actually have finished on the men's route or very close to it. Either way, we're underway again with Tina Johnson.
That was a good chat, that. It's so good to see climbing families passing on that knowledge down there. Are you going to get your daughter climbing at some point, Charlie?
Possibly not at the level that Brooke Rabatou's operating. She definitely doesn't have the genetic advantage that Brooke has, that's for sure. We'll see. As long as she doesn't get into horses, I can probably afford horses and go-karts. If we can avoid them,
Right,
financially we'll be okay.
Just don't tell her horses exist, she'll be fine. Deny all knowledge of them.
So Tina Johnson just approaching the lip there.
Yeah, Tina going well, benefiting from that early first person on the route since the clean. Up into that juggier hold. There's a big crowd here today. As we keep saying, there's a lot of climbers here in Arco. And this is the big event of the weekend. There's signs for it everywhere. Everyone knows to come to the venue if you want to see some action. So, yeah, great to see everyone here enjoying the climbing.
So,
through that roof section, see how she does this moment, because we've seen athletes do it differently. She goes up right-handed, like Stasa did, which was probably the easiest way for it. So she's looking strong here. Coming into this first crux section, we've seen the athletes do it differently. Some left-handed, some right-handed.
yeah, really looking strong through this crux section. Now just beginning to fight. Needs to find a way of getting that right foot back out, getting some use out of it.
I was about as close to the limit there as possible.
Gets the clip done, needs to get her feet underneath her again. She just had one move that looked absolutely on the limit, but she'll move herself into second place if she could just latch that hold. She'll move up anyway. That is the 33 plus move. She'll move up anyway into second place, but she won't get close to matching the high point of Elin Janiko. So that will be a second for Tina Johnson. As we pan across the crowd, I mentioned it earlier, a few hardy souls bracing the full force of the sun.
Some very tanned people, some very pasty looking people sitting amongst that crowd.
Not hard to spot the Brits, let's be honest.
Blowing the exposure out on the camera. And as I said earlier, there's a lot of things going on in this venue. There's the Wild Country crack over there. La Sportiva's got a stand.
All sorts going on. It is a festival of climbing. This field will be absolutely packed later on for finals. Mercifully for the climbers, for us and for the crowd, conditions do cool down slightly in the evening. As Matt said earlier on, they don't cool down that much. It's still firmly warm and humid, but perhaps not quite as fierce as it is right now. So Manon Ili having an excellent season and climbing here in Arco.
Yeah, very, very strong competitor. It's great to see her climb. So much power in those arms. So the men's route's still being cleaned, which is why we're not seeing any men's action at the moment. Nearing the top of the wall, the cleaners, so you're getting there.
Yeah, Thomas Johan will be first out after the cleaning break, so it could well be all France on the wall. And we're into the second half of the women's semi-final. Manon Ili, it gives you a bit of an idea of the angle of the wall there. We somewhat take for granted the climbers getting through this lower section, but interesting when Christian Bindhammer was saying you have to climb well through that lower section.
Yeah, it's a very long route, and if you blow it early on, you've just got nothing in reserve.
I think now that we're into the second year of the 6-minute rule, the route setters are really beginning to figure out how to set for it. And I think one of the features we see regularly is that the routes from bottom to top, you have to be mistake-free. One way of separating climbers and getting a good result and a good show with only 6 minutes in which to do it is to have routes where you just can't make mistakes. You can't back down, you can't swap your method. And I think that's increasingly becoming a feature of the Lead World Cups, is how well you climb the entire route, not just the crux.
Yeah, because these athletes are of a similar level in strength, most of them. Like, they're all unbelievably strong. So you need to separate it somehow, you know, it can't just be about brute strength.
So they're getting ready now on the men's route. It has been clean, the rope is being pulled down, and Thomas Johan will make his way out onto the Arco stage. And Manon, untroubled it would seem at this stage, just heading up towards that key section. You can just see the pink volume appearing in the shot.
So this is where we've seen a few people struggling, which is this right hand up and then the readjust on the blue hold. You don't have to do it, but if you do choose to do it, it's a bit of a slappy move. Dropping her knee there, avoiding that slap to the blue hold, reaching up nicely.
Thomas Johan is underway on the men's route, bottom right of your screen. This Manon Ely, this is where we saw Tina Johnson-Hafsas just make a small mistake and cost herself a lot of energy. Manon just needs to keep it really solid here and smooth. If your feet cut loose, you're not going to get them back on. Decides to get the clip done early on, which means she can concentrate on the move. So an attempt for this next hold will put her into second place, but I think to make a dent in the final place, she's going to need to latch it, which she has, and then move on past it. So she's chasing down the high point set by her compatriot, Hélène Janicot. It's all France in the lead on the women's side, and it's all France on the wall as Manon slaps up that move at the limit of her reach and her energy, it would seem. Needs to somehow get this clip done before she gets too far past it. She's on very poor hold with that left hand and now the right hand. Is she going to try and clip from it? Surely not. Slaps up with the left hand, and it's a great effort from Manon Ely, but you could see a couple of moves out that she was running low on energy. But that's enough for a top 2 spot right now. All she can do is watch.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as this competition progresses if that clip causes problems. We've only seen 2 athletes get to it, and both have struggled so far.
Thomas Johan just cut loose there on the men's route. Managed to hang on to it.
Just having to adjust around the rope there to get that big fat pinch. Shouldery rotation there, that move.
Very calm in the venue again now. And you can see that Manon Ely not only matched but slightly surpassed the high point of Hélène Janicot. So France 1 and 2 on the women's side of things. Japan 1, 2 and 3 on the men's side of things. Again, Loic Timmermans, we mentioned it earlier, climbed first, still 4th. And still watching on nervously, you would imagine. He may just hang on. I still think that with the calibre of climbers still to come, it probably won't be enough. But stranger things have happened.
Hélène just slipping down to that second place. I think because she tried to clip, she didn't move through. She was reaching down, trying to get a toe hook in, and that just cost her that half point.
Evgenia Kazbekova is climbing on the women's route. Thomas Johan has just reached the big blue starfish on the men's route. So we're well past halfway in both the men's and women's side of things. 16th climber on the women's side and the 14th on the men's. Thomas looked fatigued earlier on, made a small mistake and his feet cut loose. But he recovered it, and now it's just a case of how well has he climbed that lower section, how well has he managed his energy, how much juice has he got left in the tank. Climbing well and taking every opportunity just for a mini shakeout between holds. But he needs to find a way of getting his right foot involved. Could do with getting the clip done, because from there he'll be able to move on. And again, it's that slap up to the left. The route setters, we talked to Christian Binhammer earlier, might be getting slightly concerned that that is a stopper move and that we won't see progress past it.
Yeah, he never looked like he was going to get further, because we know if he had made that move, it's almost going to be impossible to go back down and clip that clip. So it's kind of a last throw of the dice there from him.
Genia Kasparkova looked like that move required everything she had. Solid once she got there.
Fascinating watching this section of the women's route, just because of the amount of different variants we've seen on it so far. Choosing that right hand up first, which does mean you don't need to do the match move. Breathing hard, you can see, just trying to suck that oxygen into the body. So here we go, into this crux, the first crux section.
Stefano Ghisolfi is ready to climb on the men's route.
Yes. As I was about to speak, the MC went absolutely crazy. He's immensely popular and, of course, climbing in front of his home crowd. Meanwhile, on the women's route, coming up to the section but just spat off a lot of climbers, that big yellow hold. It's a very specific part you've got to grab on it, and if you missed it, you're off. She makes it look easy, actually. So here we go, into this roof section. Will she make this low down clip? She's thinking about it.
Yeah, so just to give you some orientation, that yellow triangular volume that Evgenia is heading to now, that's 37. 37 plus was the high point, so if she can move and latch the next hold, that'll be hold 38. That's the one she's currently got her foot on. And again, we lose her around the hole 37, so I don't think she'll be awarded a plus. I think that'll be a 37. Same score as Ellen Janiko, but that will move her ahead on count back to the previous round. So we can focus our attention now on Arco resident and crowd favourite Stefano Ghisolfi. Matt, a man you know well.
Yeah, very well. I spent a lot of time with him. I've climbed with him a fair bit, and just really nice guy, really calm. But underneath that calm exterior, he is seriously competitive. He wants to win, and he wants to win here. But we saw that grimace earlier on his face. Possibly struggling early on. I know he doesn't like the heat of Arco. He doesn't actually tend to climb here much in the summer, just because it's the projects he's trying are too hard for the heat we see, so he tends to climb elsewhere. But this is his home, and to our right, the crowd all standing up now, willing their man on. So composing himself before this harder section, you get this shouldering move coming up. You can see how small that crimp is. Reaches up the clip, and this is where you need to move a little bit faster as an athlete. You just need to compose yourself, take a breath, smash those moves. Don't stand on the dual textured holes. There's a lot to think about. Stefano clipping off that left heel hook this time. We've seen a few variants on that with a right heel hook or a right toe, but he chooses that left heel hook section. Mina Markovic is setting off on the right-hand side of our screen. Very experienced competitor, of course. We've seen her over many, many World Cups.
Yeah, legend of the game, 4 overall World Cup titles. As well as the win in Arco, remember that overall World Cup title is the big prize for Stefano. I wonder if he might perhaps have been better clipping. No, does it nice and calmly.
I was starting to get gesturing for him to clip, but he shut me up, made that look easy. Mina Markovic just taking the tape off her right hand mid-route there. It's obviously getting in the way. You saw her tearing it off with her teeth. Now moving on through. Stefano on the crux move. Let's see what you can do. Taking a moment to chalk up.
Yeah, he's just heading on to hold number 30. There's Mina. We saw her again in Arco this morning. It's one of the best things about being here is that basically everyone has to walk down the main street of Arco to get here. So you run into everyone, see how everyone's feeling, have a little chat with everyone.
Yeah, it's great. If you haven't come here for the World Cup in Arco, you really should. Come for a climb as well, bring your shoes.
So Stefano heading up into the real meat of this men's route. He's perhaps slightly out of position after not the best day in the qualifiers. We might have expected to see him later in the semi-final. Can he break through this 37 plus move, which is currently stopped no less than 4 of the climbers, and Loic Timmermans was stopped on hole 37, so there's basically 5 climbers couldn't do that move up to 38. This one coming up now. Stefano lining it up, but he needs to think about clipping. He's got it done, he's through the move, but how will he clip? That quick draw's now far over to the right. Can he reach it? Oh, he's got himself in all sorts of trouble, Stefano. Doesn't want to reverse the crux move, but he needs to clip. His score won't count if it's been deemed that he climbed past a safe position to clip from, so he needs to get it clipped or the judges will not award him the score. Stefano's got himself in all sorts of bother. He needed to get that clip done earlier. Can he even clip from here? Even if he wants to, he has to basically reverse the move. Oh, he'll be kicking himself. He's got it done now, but how much energy's he got left? Stefano Ghisolfi got the move done. It didn't even look that hard the way he did it. He cruised a move that stopped some of the world's best climbers, but he burned so much energy not getting that clip done and having to go back to it. Can he recover something on these moves here? He's got a heel hook, but it's not enough. And we lose him heading up towards hold 42. I think that my prediction would be that will be enough for the final, but he will be absolutely furious with himself.
Yeah, I was sitting here willing him to make that clip earlier as he kind of kept climbing through it. He was actually on where we were told by the route setters was the crux of this route. First athlete into that, and it did look hard, very, very slopey. Nothing on that higher volume. Meanwhile, Mina Markovic is going very well. She's reaching this crux little slap jump here. Sets herself up, having a little rest before the move. Just taking her time, using her experience. She knows this is tricky, doesn't want to blow it. But again, you don't want to be hanging around for too long on these holes. You can't recover that much because of how sweaty it is. I made it look easy though eventually, slapping up to that yellow hold. Just loses it on the next move. I made a half-hearted attempt at it. It just looked like she'd burned herself out.
I just mentioned earlier, by the way, about as we watch Alberto Jimenez Lopez just go through his final bits of preparation as we lost Mina Markovic. Chasa Callan, her compatriot, will be next out. I mentioned with Stefano in the heat of the moment that he needs to clip, that he won't be awarded the score. I just pulled up the specific rule. Rule 6.9.3. Matt could recite it, but I'll read it. The competitor must clip the quick draws in sequence. Climbers are allowed to unclip and reclip the last clip carabiner, but this is the key. The competitor must be in a legitimate position at all times. The competitor shall not be in a legitimate position where, having reached or passed the first unclipped quick draw, they move beyond the furthest hold from which any other competitor in the same category has demonstrated it's possible to clip the unclipped quick draw, or deemed by the chief route setter as being the last hold from which it is possible to clip the unclipped quick draw. So in other words, you can't just think, I'll just take a massive fall. You have to clip them in sequence, and you have to clip them from the point that it's been deemed they should be clipped from, the last point from which it's deemed they should be clipped from. So be interesting to see what the judges made of that from Stefano, because he climbed past it and then climbed back down.
Yeah, I mean there is room for a little leeway in that, because they can argue that they can clip it from there, and there's this little loose area where the judges have got to decide whether the athlete's right or they're right, or it's a grey area sometimes.
Well, I think the key is it's the hold from which any other competitor has clipped it, or the route setter said it can be clipped. So you can't say, well, I think I could have clipped it.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one. We'll see what his scores just come through. They've awarded him 44 plus, which is pretty much his highest point. So they were obviously happy that he never quite got himself into an unsafe position. But it's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, this is something we're perhaps going to see come up in the women's routes. We know that high clip is difficult to do it. 2 athletes dropping it there. So perhaps that rule, we're going to be talking about it in a few minutes. I'm glad you read me that. What was it, 693?
Yes.
I, of course, studied this handbook in detail, learned it all by heart.
It's not always easy to sleep in different hotels, so it's always good to have some
Right,
reading
Charlie.
material.
It engrosses me personally. No, there is a vast amount of information and rules and technicalities here, but of course the athletes can appeal it and talk about it. So it's evolving. None of these rules are set in stone forever and ever and ever. If something doesn't work, it will be looked at again.
Bottom line is Stefano was at fault there. He should have got that clip done earlier, and it cost him.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think 44 plus at 7 moves further on than any of the other men so far. I think that'll be enough. But he certainly more than enough climbers to knock him out at this stage. More than 8 to go, so he'll have a bit of a nervous wait. So Alberto going well. Very young climber, 16 years old. From Spain. Nice start to your climbing career to be born in Spain. You've got to put the hard work in as well, and he's certainly doing that. Chasa Kalan, meanwhile, 22-year-old, Slovenian. And we're actually not far off the point of confirming finalists on the women's side of things. She's the 9th to last climber.
It's gone quickly, hasn't it, today?
Has, yeah. Alberto now entering this key section.
He's climbed back very quickly than Stefano. Here's this match, so difficult.
Now can he get the move done? It's his 37 plus move. That one there that stopped so many of the climbers, and he has. And how often do we see it where a new high point is breached and suddenly climbers start breaching it repeatedly? But he's made the same mistake as Stefano. He's going to get himself in exactly the same position where he needs to somehow down climb to clip. He can't just keep fighting on. As I said, if the judges deem that he climbed beyond the last safe position from which to clip, he won't be awarded the score anyway, so he's got to get the clip done. But you can see how pumped he is now, a grimace on his face, but also his body language. What will the judges do there? That's why we've got judges and not robots. They've got a decision to make.
You mean the judges aren't robots? It's news to me.
Chasa Kalan is just heading up towards the crux on the women's route as we see Alberto untying.
Alberto looked fresh there. Looked really fresh, climbed brilliantly in fact. And just that slight error with the clip that's very easy to do. It takes a moment to untie his knot. Those knots do get quite loaded up when they take a big fall like that. That's why you see them struggling, and of course they're pumped at that point, so it's not easy to undo it.
So Chasa Kalan is entering the absolute key section of the women's route. You can see her there on the bottom right, that familiar pink volume. Getting plenty of encouragement. Slovenia well represented as ever at the World Cups. She's being cheered on very loudly. There's quite a few people near to our commentary box. You might even hear the cheers coming through our microphones.
Similar style to Mina here, Mina Markovic, her teammate, really taking advantage of that rest. Oh, she's gone left-handed. That's new.
Has that got her into a bit of trouble? It has. Yeah, you called it, Matt. She went with the left hand. We've not seen that method used, and she did manage to hang on to it, but it then meant that she couldn't move on from there. We're having one or two technical problems. Apologies for that. I'm pretty sure it's the heat. Our broadcast van is basically a big black metal tin, and it's about 38 degrees in Arco, so apologies if we did lose the stream briefly there. It would seem that we're underway.
Yeah, we sound like the railways, don't we?
Operating difficulties.
Yeah. Apologies about that, we're in the dark as well. So Shita Tanaka into that undercling hold.
And Sophie Coller is climbing on the women's route. She is the 8th to last climber, so after her we will have our first confirmed finalist. And if she can't match the high points of 37 plus of Manon Illy, Manon will be our first confirmed finalist. The breakthrough was made by Ellen Janiko, who's since had a couple of climbers, Evgenia Kazbekova and Manon Illy, past that crux section. This is Anne-Sophie Coller.
Yeah, she's climbing fairly slowly at the moment, just taking her time, not wanting to drop it, but I mean, time has not been an issue at all so far. We're seeing all the athletes drop it before they get timed out.
Shooter Tanaka, immensely talented young Japanese climber, and he's now heading into the real bulk of this route. And we're seeing 2 climbers in a row get through this move, which looked as if it could be problematic, could be a stopper move, and a 3rd climber in a row. Amazing how that happens. They surely aren't aware of what's going on out on the wall, but it seems like once someone's done it, others follow, and he gets the clip done from an unusual position, but an effective one. Now this could be a very handy score from Shooter Tanaka. He looks like he's got something left. He's not made a mistake with the quick draw, which we saw from Stefano and Alberto. Now needs to get the next one clipped, but he's looking really, really strong. And Shooter Tanaka putting on a great show here. Very young Japanese climber, 18 years old. Another product of the very successful Japan Talent Factory, and we just lose him bumpy his way up that pink volume, but a very handy score. And similarly, we lose Anne-Sophie Coller, and it won't be enough for a place in the final for her.
I just want to talk about Shooter Tanaka's body tension in that sequence, which was utterly outrageous. The amount of abs that man must have. He's just holding himself into the wall. And the clip, because he had that body tension, he could get the heel hooked in and make it look easy, whereas the other guys were just reaching out, flapping around a little bit more. Core strength, that's what it's all about sometimes. Of course, Charlie knows all about core strength, advocate of it. You see this man's fitness regime in the morning, it's outrageous.
Well, I have a permanent weight belt around my core. It's just, it's like loaded carries, you know, you just always training just due to that weight belt.
Yeah. Dedication from Charlie Bosco. Looking to compete, that's what I've heard. It's a couple of years, he's building himself up for it.
Lining up a go at the Veterans World Cups. Yeah.
Hey, well.
In between the semis and the finals, we're going deep water soloing on that crag at Lake Garda, and when you jump in, I'm going to pedal away on the pedalo, so just rein it in slightly. I've seen you swim, you definitely won't catch me.
Swim or sink.
Yeah, so just be careful, that's all I'm saying.
Follow along on our Instagram accounts if you want to see us falling in.
Less so mine. Matt's a good old Instagrammer.
You talk about deep water soloing, I'm just like, I've got a need to get into water. So hot.
Christine Schranz is climbing on the women's route. Brilliant day for her yesterday in the qualifiers. And Hyunbin Min, there he is. Just our roaming camera finding him. Previous World Cup winner, returning to the World Cups in 2018 after a 4-year break. And going well. Finals already this year.
Yeah, I was saying at Chamonix, he has got some brilliant tattoos. I love them. Nothing to do with his climbing ability, of course. I just think they're cool. Perhaps it helps, who knows. There we go, as the camera pans around. See our wall.
It is the most wonderful location. They certainly do pick them on the IFSC Lead World Cups. We've been in Villars, Chamonix, Briançon, and now Arco. And we'll be in Innsbruck for the World Championships in September.
Christine going strongly at the moment.
Yeah, no issues for either of the climbers so far. Just to confirm the scores coming through, and Sophie Koller was the 8th last climber. Christine Schranz is the 7th to last climber. That means that our top ranked climber has already qualified for the final, and that is Manon Illy.
Watching Christine's resting technique here, that very, very straight arm, you can see it there as she chalks up.
Over on the men's side, by the way, Shuta Tanaka, that was a new high point set, equaled Stefano's high point, but due to count back to the qualifying round, Shuta Tanaka now in first place. Hyun Bin Min, the 18th climber out, and again he's the 9th to last climber out. So after him it will be winner from last week in Briançon, Alex Megos, and we'll be able to start confirming who's going to appear in the finals tonight. Finals tonight, 7:45 Arco time.
So Christine climbing slowly at the moment, very, very precise, milking those rests.
She's just nearing the pink volume where things really get serious and where we'll start to determine our finalists. Hyun Bin Min, meanwhile, is keeping up a steady pace through the middle section, around the 25th move, about halfway up this men's route.
See that right foot just shaking on that small hold. That's how you know how small those footholds are. She's just backed off this a couple of times, just taking a rest. Deciding to go for the left-hand side of that blue volume rather than use the little hold on it.
It's not something we've seen a lot of, actually, women below this crux section taking long rests. It may well pay off. This is an awkward move here. She did it nice and in control. You might remember Julia Shanodi earlier on in this semi-final just had to slap at that move because she couldn't quite get the body position right. Christine looking much more composed and controlled, and then that big slap up to the huge yellow hold on just the change of angle. It's proved to be the crux move. A lot of climbers getting held up there. She's looking very, very fit here though, Christine. Endurance doesn't look to be a problem even at this stage, and she's absolutely nailed that hold. She was very accurate with the movement, got the coordination and timing absolutely spot on, and she's powering through up onto hole 36 and coming up towards 37.
So first lady there to make that clip. Not even a problem for her. Obviously she doesn't know what's come before.
So if she can get her hands onto that next hole, that's where her feet currently are. That one there, excuse me, it's not the one with her feet on. That's enough for the final for Christine Schranz. So she's going to be climbing tonight, along with Manon Illy. 6 climbers still to come in the women's, as Christine Schranz allows us to have our first look at the very steepest section of the Arco wall, where it starts to come back down towards the ground. She's now on the absolutely horizontal section. You can see her there silhouetted against the Arco Valley. And this is a brilliant effort from Christine Schranz. This is going to be a massive new high point. That's hole 43 she was going for. And the judges may well give her a 42 plus if they haven't deemed that she's controlled that hole. But either way, she's set a new high point and she's got herself a place in the final.
Yeah, she just went up there with that left hand, and it looked like she looked like she was too low on it. Had a think about pulling on the volume, decided against it, went up again, and just burnt herself out. It's a shame. I think if she'd just popped straight for it, she would have stuck it. I was waiting for her to look tired then, and she just didn't seem to get tired at all.
I was thinking that. You're waiting for the signs of the body language changing and the elbows just beginning to come out and the movement's getting that bit more jerky. But as you say, it never really arrived.
Yeah, very impressive climbing there.
So that was, she was awarded 43, so it was deemed that she had controlled that last hold. Christine, it matters not. It was going to be a high point. It was going to be a place in the final, but hold 43 now the mark to beat over on the women's side. And we were focusing so much on Christine Schranz and just double checking what score Hyunbin Min was awarded. Alex Megos makes his way out onto the stage. Claire Burfine of the USA is climbing on the women's side. You can see her there just waving her arms and going through her final preparations at the foot of the route.
Yeah, Alex Megos has that almost celebrity status around rock climbing. Very well known, both on, well, mainly on real rock, and then recently has come back to this competition scene, and we're seeing him make massive inroads into it. Really very competitive at the moment.
I think that World Cup win in Briançon meant more to him than perhaps he expected it would. He said it had been on his bucket list to win a World Cup, but I think it really meant a lot to him to win. And as I said, I got the impression he was almost surprised by how much it meant to him. It was a big tick in the box, because when you're known as being an outdoor climber and then you come and start competing, people expect a lot from you. We saw it with Ashima, we saw it with Alex. People just think you'll suddenly just start winning the competitions. It's not that simple. There's a lot more to the game than perhaps even the climbers themselves realise when they make that transition. So for Alex to have, if you like, mastered outdoor climbing in the way he has and then win a World Cup, incredibly impressive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so much that goes into one of these events, you know, from the qualifying, from the way you eat, from your diet, from your rest. There's, you know, when you're outdoor rock climbing, you're very much on your own schedule. You come to an IFSC event and suddenly people are telling you where to go at what time. It's not easy, that transition period. But we know Alex has got the pedigree, we know he's got the experience as well, and we can see that throughout this season, the way he reads routes. He's now red there for the left foot. Claire going well on the right-hand side of your screen.
Claire, a true all-rounder, made the final in the lead in Paris in 2016 at the World Championships. Can she repeat that in Innsbruck? She had a wonderful Youth World Championships in Innsbruck last September. She'll be back in the Senior World Championships this September. Alex, perhaps as you might expect, untroubled at this stage.
Yeah, choosing not to take any real rest time down there. We've seen a few people with the heel hooked up, having a moment, but he's moving straight through that section.
Two female finalists confirmed. Christine Schranz, Manon Ely will be climbing tonight. Claire Burfine trying to join them. Shooter Tanaka still leading the way. Hyunbin Min, as I said earlier, apologies, we were concentrating on Christine Schranz. He scored 39 plus. Puts him in 4th place. Anxious wait for him. Could be enough. Loic Timmermans, just to let you know, down in 9th place. We thought that he may have done enough. It always seemed unlikely, but he definitely won't be making the final, sadly. And Alex, just the first mistake he's made here, not getting that clip done, has to lower himself back down. Looked pretty relaxed about the whole thing, but even Alex Megos runs out of energy eventually.
He's just sort of hanging with one hand there, thinking about a clip, but thinks better of it, which I'm quite pleased. Are we starting to see his energy wane? He's cutting loose a lot.
Yeah, I think he struggled with the heat a bit yesterday in qualifiers, but then who didn't? He said he was going to go and jump in the lake immediately after his second qualifying route, which I thoroughly recommend if you've been climbing Arco. Claire Burfine, you can see her on the bottom right of your screen, is absolutely on the what's proven to be the crux move on the women's route, that slap up to hole number 38. Alex going well on the men's route. It's all action, both big screen and smaller screen on the bottom right. And Claire Burfine is through that move very, very smoothly and seemingly without too much effort. As we lose Alex going up towards that hole 37. Be interested to see how the judges viewed that one. Has he done enough? He might get through on count back to the previous round, but we shall see. Claire Burfine is climbing her way into the final here. She's going to be in the final with that hold. Now it's a question of whether she can set a new high point. So often it seems to be the case, particularly on the women's side of lead climbing, that count back to the previous round is so crucial. It's not good enough just to get through to the final. This could be the climb that wins or loses the competition for you. So she needs a good performance in the semi-final. You have to give it everything, which she certainly did. And she won't have matched Christine Schranz's high point. She will have found a place into the final. We'll confirm what her score was as and when it comes through.
I'm not sure we can get a replay of Alex Megos' fall, but it was very interesting what he did with that move. A lot of the athletes were matching, you going out left into a crimp and then bringing their thumb into that same crimp. Alex was using the bottom section of that hold almost as a sort of undercling side pull, so when he went up for that left slap, he just kind of peeled off it. So just watching very closely with his hands the way he did that move, it was different, and I think he paid for it because of that.
Claire Burfine moves into provisional second place, 41 plus for her, so a move and a half short of Christine Schranz's high point, but as with Christine, it matters not. She's into the final. Let's have a look at a replay of Alex. This is Claire. We'll see a replay of Claire, and then hopefully we'll see a replay of Alex.
Spinning her way down there.
Hidemasa Nishida, the 16-year-old Japanese climber, onto the wall. We will get a replay of you of Alex Megos. Keep an eye on Hidemasa for now, though. The women's competition not far off drawing to a close. Let's have a quick look at Alex.
So there you go, that left hand and the right hand in a sort of side pull almost. It just doesn't allow him to wrap that thumb over properly like the other athletes had.
So as he's slapping out with the left hand, he's simultaneously having to flick his right thumb. Yeah, I see exactly what you mean. A good spot there. Nice work, Matt. So Alex Megos, it's him down in 5th place. And we've got 7 climbers still to come. So Shooter Tanaka's done enough to make the final. Stefano Gisolfi, you would imagine, has done enough. Alex Megos, I fear not. Which I think is a shame for a lot of the neutrals in the crowd. They love to see the biggest names possible, but you've got to earn it.
Of course, we've got a very big name coming up soon for the men's competition. Adam Ondra climbing.
See there, coming along the top of your screen, we've got 5 female climbers still to come, so that means the top 3 are already confirmed to make it into the final. The rest of the top 8, as it stands, can only sit and watch. Currently climbing on the wall, we've got May Kotaki, then we'll have Hannah Schubert, Jessie Pilz, Anna Verhoeven and Janja Garnbret. Very familiar feel to the top end of that women's order. Over on the men's side, Hidemasa Nishida is currently on the wall. Then we've got Sasha Lame and Sean Bailey. And then the final 4 climbers, here's a good little bit of trivia for you, are all overall World Cup winners. Roman de Grange, Domen Skofic, Adam Ondra and Jakob Schubert. All of them not only World Cup winners, but overall World Cup winners in seasons past. Roman de Grange, of course, the reigning champion.
That's a pretty special lineup, isn't it? I got a bit of a shiver when you said that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, Jakob and Adam actually multiple lead World Cup overall winners.
Yeah, we talked about May Kotaki's height before, and she had to do a real big jump there to get into that juggy hold.
That's a brilliant shot, by the way. If you ever want an insight of what a World Cup hold looks like, bear in mind this is on an incredibly overhanging wall. But Hidemasa Nishida, as it stands, unfazed by the occasion. Hidemasa aiming for a place in the final. I mean, he's already almost guaranteed his best finish in a World Cup. He was 25th in Chamonix earlier this year. He's done. This is his 4th World Cup in 4 weeks, and he made his World Cup debut in Vilar. So racking experience up pretty quickly, going from no World Cups to 4 in the space of 3.5 weeks. Not bad work.
That's pretty good.
May Kotaki, plenty of experience. Can she find a way into the final here?
Yeah, finding that little crimp on the end of the blue volume. I'm looking forward to watching her tackle this next sequence. She's going to have to find a slightly different way through it than some of the other people.
Yeah, Yeah, interesting enough, she wasn't climbing in Briançon last week, Meiko Taki, but she's made the finals of the 2 World Cups she has competed in the lead so far this season, Vila and Chamonix. But just needs to find a way of setting herself for that move, and she's not going to make the final here in Arco. That won't be enough, and that's disappointing for Meiko Taki after what's been a good lead season for her. We're used to seeing her in bouldering. She's made the transition to lead very successfully, but not here in Arco.
Yeah, perhaps feeling a little bit rusty after that week off. Yeah, shame to see her go down. I was looking forward to seeing how she was going to work that sequence out.
So Hidemasa, here he is on what's proved to be the key move here on the Arco wall. Needs to get the clip done, we know that. And again, it'll be a 37 plus for him. That move really proving to be a stopper. So be on the same score as Alex Megos. I'm pretty sure we're not going to see Alex Megos in the final tonight, barring some pretty freak results.
Is that a tent in that crowd shot?
It's the pop-up sun shelter.
Ah, about to say, a good place for a bedroom, that one.
Brilliant. Proud owner of one.
Are you?
Field really beginning to fill up, but you can see exactly where the shade is from those huge trees in the middle of the venue. Everyone congregated underneath him. So here's Hannah Schubert. Chatted to her yesterday. Relaxed as ever, but focused as ever as well. She's able to switch it off. As soon as she gets off the wall, she's happy and chatty and friendly, but she gets on the wall, she's so competitive, and this season she's so strong. Yeah, Alex Megos just been bumped down to 6th place. Hidemasa Nishida takes his place in 5th. Over on the women's side, top 4 now confirmed in the final. So Evgenia Kazbekova is going to climb tonight. Hannah Schubert and Sasha Lehmann, the latest climbers, try and make their way into this evening's action.
Yeah, Hannah Schubert has slight hesitation there. She almost went straight into that little pop, thought better of it, came down, had a shake. Just don't want to drop it early on. You really don't want to blow it on a move that you can do, but you're maybe a little bit nervous and your heart rate's going, so sensible, clever climbing from her.
It's nice work from Hannah, and possibly a lesson you learned from the qualifiers yesterday. She got herself in a bit of a muddle on the first women's qualifiers. She did more than enough to qualify very well for the semi-final, but she could have gone better. She got in a bit of a mess with a clip, and just one of those situations where you're watching and 10 seconds, 20 seconds go by and she's still fiddling around trying to get the clip, and it costs her a bit. So I think a good tactic. She obviously wasn't happy with the sequence, climbed back down, started again. The only problem is, and we've talked about it quite a lot, how much energy you've got left after doing that. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw her pause slightly here. She's in a reasonably comfortable position. You can get quite close into the wall. Not a bit of it, straight through.
It's almost like she heard you there. She's taking a moment here. You can see she does look a little bit tired to me, shaking out, really trying to get that pump out. Slight down climb. It's a long way up to that next hold. Got that little bit of pump in your arm, it makes that move so much harder.
16th, 8th and 13th her results so far this season. Certainly feels she's capable of a big result this year. Not sure what would constitute a big result, but I think perhaps certainly capable of a podium. She's going really well. Anyway, first things first, she's got to make the final here in Arco, and then we'll worry about what would constitute a big result.
Sasha Lehmann with a big cut loose there, really showing off his shoulder muscles as he held that swing. You see him now rotating to the right, matching that sloper, going off the clip. That's a great angle. Look how horrible that hold is.
So Hannah now clipping from a slightly awkward position. slightly fiddly, only lost a second or two. And this section of the women's route looking very, very familiar. You can see how flexibility and mobility was required there, and Hannah just looking slightly uncomfortable all of a sudden. You can still see her there on the right hand side of the screen. Again, opts to move down. That's the second time she's done that. She is looking super strong this year, but not strong enough for a place in the final.
Yeah, we've seen this with a few athletes. They don't seem settled. Like, and if they're not settled, they can't really recover it on this route. I think it's awkward moves. If you're not feeling, you haven't got that flow. We've seen a few times now that they can't seem to pull it back, can't seem to recover.
That's really disappointing for Hannah. I don't think it was a fatigue issue. She just never quite looked comfortable on the route.
Sasha muscling his way through this bottom section. Through that starfish hold.
Choosing to shake out. I think he's sussed out that this next section is key, and he's absolutely right. So this is hole 37 he's on now. When he moves out left, that's proving to be the key move. Look, nicely done. 39 he's up to now.
And he's made that clip. He's not going to have the issue the other guys have had. He gets to move straight through.
He is looking immensely strong, Sasha Lehmann, this year. 2 finals already. Oh. Are we going to see a new high point from Sasha? You can see from his face just how hard he's having to fight. That is a new high point. That is hold 46. Make that 47. Sasha Lehmann, you can see the top beckoning. Brilliant effort from Sasha Lehmann. It isn't enough for a top. It's certainly enough for a place in the final. He knows it's enough. Little fist pump from him, good result.
Someone needs to tell him that was meant to be hard. He made it look so simple. And through that slopey, I was saying how there's no texture on that red volume, but he made it look like there was texture. Locked the heel hook in. Such a physical climber.
Just looking over at a couple of the Swiss coaches, big fist pumps from both of them. Jessie Piltz is climbing, you can see her there as Sasha walks underneath her. Here she is, winner in Chamonix. She had to get 10 podiums before the 11th one she was on top. But she's crossed it now, she's crossed the barrier. She'll take some beating. Here's Sean Bailey. Also saw him this morning picking up his double espresso.
We were tucking into our cheese toasters. That's why we're not athletes, Charlie.
One of many, many reasons.
Nah, just the cheese toasters.
Yeah, just the cheese toasters.
Any reason.
Need to cut them out.
Yeah.
Sean Bailey, the Seattleite climber. Getting ready to climb. So Jessie around where we lost her compatriot Hannah Schubert.
Yeah, the difference in styles is quite obvious there. She just looks more comfortable. More flow. Please don't fall off now and prove me wrong. Come on, Jessie.
Hannah Schubert just, down in 16th place, 26 plus for her. Disappointing, there's no doubt she's got the strength and the endurance. It just seems this weekend, I mentioned it in the qualifiers and again today, just a couple of minor route reading issues and they can be absolutely fatal at this level. What's Jessie got? She is the third to last climber out. That means Ellen Janico has confirmed her place in the final. Christine Schranz, Jessie's compatriot, still leading the way on the women's side. Her 43 has not been matched. Claire Burfine's come closest with a 41 plus.
Jessie just working her way around that move.
Yeah, she looks very keen not to make a mistake, Jessie. Trying to be absolutely solid in everything she does. Look, she was hoping there might be a knee bar to be had there. There isn't.
They'd be so lucky, wouldn't they?
Just fumbles slightly with the clip.
Yeah, this is it. It's business time. This is the crux. Well, what we've seen is the crux move. Again, someone should tell Jessie that's the crux move. Make it look simple.
That's, yeah, hole 35 she's up to now. So still work to be done.
On the bottom of the screen, Sean Bailey finding quite a unique resting position there. Haven't seen many athletes find that yet.
Jessie slaps up with the right hand onto hold 36. That will actually be enough for her place in the final. That moves her, as it stands, into 6th place with 2 climbers to go. So she won't realise it, Jessie, but that's actually enough for her to make the final. But say it so often, countback could be crucial. This could be the route that decides the outcome of the final. You just don't know what's going to happen. So just keep on going. Jessie's looking pretty solid here, but it's so steep, it's so unrelenting. You can see even when she chalks up, she's chalking up from a horizontal roof with a bent arm. It's not at all a comfortable position. Are we going to see a new high point on the women's route though? 43 is where it currently stands. That's that yellow screw on and the highest blue volume that you can see, slightly left, just above Jessie's left foot. So that's the high point that Christine Schramm's hit. What can Jessie do? Just had to bump up to it, but she's matched it, and that means that she'll be in 1st place on count back to the semi-finals with 2 climbers to go. Slaps up with the right hand. That's hold 44. Are we going to see a top of the women's route? Jessie Pilz crosses through to hold 45. There's only 50 on the route. And you can see there, she just got super tired. But that's a high point for Jessie. 2 climbers still to go. The worst she can qualify for the final is in 3rd place.
Great watching all her tricks through that roof section. Toe hooks, heel hooks, just trying to keep the body tension. A great battle from Jessie there. So Sean Bailey getting into the business section of the route, into that starfish hold. Well, volume, sorry. Just cutting loose, having to hold it.
Silver medalist in Vale in the bouldering earlier on this year. Incredible result, an incredible day in the Colorado Mountains with Alex Puccio winning and Sean taking silver.
Just trying to make me jealous now, you know I wasn't there.
Oh, the Colorado Mountains aren't all they're hyped up to be. Don't worry, you didn't miss much.
All right, I'll take your place next year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So here we go, this crux move.
And again, we lose someone just on that slap up, and I think it was similar to Alex Megos. I think he tried to get the thumb catch at the same time as he went out with the left hand. That move is proving so problematic, but interestingly enough, the climbers that get it seem to cruise it.
Yeah, for sure. Sean looked surprised to fall off that. I don't think he was pumped. I don't think he was struggling. He just didn't quite get it right, and that's what we've seen with that move. And Avia Hoven now starting up on her semi-final route.
Anna Verhoeven, the penultimate climber here in Arco. She managed 1 top in the qualifiers yesterday. Janja Garnbret, who will climb after her in the semi-final, managed 2. Sean Bailey moves himself into 6th position with his climb, with 4 incredibly strong climbers left to go. Oh, his position in the final is in the balance.
Very distinctive style from Anak, just calm, precise. Using all of her experience to read this route. Roman de Grange comes out, looks at the route for the men's.
I think he might like what he sees, actually.
I think this is his style.
It's a good fight. It's a real burly fight. Endurance, resistance. I think he could enjoy himself. We shall see though, he's had a couple of disasters in the first couple of World Cups, unexpected slips or route reading errors. Roman de Grange ready to roll. Anna Verhoeven well underway on the women's route.
The intensity in Roman's eyes there was something to behold. A real glare at the wall before he started off.
As I mentioned earlier, the last 4 climbers in the men's semi-final are all overall World Cup winners in the lead. Not just World Cup winners, but overall season winners. Jakob Schubert and Adam Ondra have got 2 wins each. Roma and Doman have got 1 each. But it gives you some idea of the calibre of climbers here at the end of the semi-final.
Just to see Roman in trousers.
Yeah, I know, it's slightly less hot, but it certainly wouldn't be my clothing choice. Anak had some issues with time in the past couple of World Cups. The 6-minute rule does not suit her, but the rules are the rules. She's having to find a way to adapt to them.
A wraparound crimp there with the thumb in play. So much pressure going through those fingers.
And interestingly enough, I think the conditions are improving slightly. It's definitely cooler than it was, and you can see Anak's hair blowing and the trees around the venue blowing as well. The wind is definitely picking up. I feel like conditions are certainly better than they were an hour and a half ago. And it just made me think of it when I saw Anak's hand was still completely white, covered in chalk. She obviously isn't sweating as much as a lot of the earlier climbers when it was super hot.
Yeah, it's a good spot. That's one way you can tell, isn't it? Because obviously the more sweat you do, the more that chalk comes off. Roman had a bit of a moment down there. Just a slight hesitation before the cut loose move. Roman into that deep shoulder lock. So Anak into the first of the slopers. This is a hard move coming up.
Yeah, there's not really much there for that right foot. You really need to be precise to get some force through it.
Yeah, we talked about the features in that wall and that little wave pattern we can see there, using it to the full.
So Anak absolutely in the crucial section of this women's route. This is where it all gets determined. 34, that big yellow hole that for so long seemed impossible to reach. We've had a series of climbers go past it now.
She just had a little look there, had a little peer to see which bit of that hold is the best bit, because it's not obvious from beneath it. And as we've seen, if you get the wrong bit, you're coming off. It doesn't matter what you do. So she's had a look, she's had a rest. See if she can pull it off.
Now she's on to hole she was on to hole 34. Didn't like the look of it. She'll have to go again. If she can move off it, she'll be given 34 plus, and that'll actually be enough to get her into the final. She'd then be into a 7th place with only Janja Garnbret to come. So obviously Anak doesn't know it, but if she can stay on that hold that she's currently got her right hand on and move off it, as she has done, she will have booked her place in the final. So let's just keep an eye on Roman de Grange as well as Anak. Roman de Grange is on the bottom right hand side of your screen, and he's got that key move on hole 38 done. Both climbers absolutely crucial points of their climb. Anak having to spin round on the very steepest section of the wall here in Arco.
Roman having trouble with his clip. He just had a little look at it. Yeah. Takes the fall. You could see him trying to work out how to do it. Was he going to drop that knee? Was he going to go one move up? And eventually sort of didn't do a lot, but so tricky, that section of the route.
You could see Anak silhouetted against the valley here. The pump absolutely outrageous by this stage. She looks slightly annoyed with herself, just seemed to drop off. Be interesting to see that from another angle, but either way, she'll be in the final. She claimed her first ever World Cup win here in Arco 2 years ago. She's just looking up ruefully, and you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, waiting to come out, Janja Garnbret. Now then, if we're going to see at the top of this women's route, Janja is going to have to provide it. Anna Verhoeven, by the way, is currently untying her knot underneath the Arco wall, and she looks very, very tight, breathing heavily, grimacing slightly, just trying to get enough oxygen into her body. And obviously took a lot out of her. Romain Negron, she's in 6th place as it stands. He may not make the final.
That is an angry looking Frenchman as he walks away shaking his head. You just tell from his body language he wanted more out of that.
We're at that stage of the semi-final where people are qualifying or being knocked out of the top 8 so fast. We're trying to stay on top of it, but Romain Negron in 6th place as it stands.
Domen Skopik, saw him this morning looking fresh. Very distinctive style with that necklace he wears. Janja's underway as well on the right. 2 teammates, of course.
So Sasha Lehmann still leading the way on the men's side of things, as you can see on your screen there. Domen, the 3rd to last climber out, so that top 5, finishing with Hyun Bin Min, are already guaranteed to appear tonight. Domen and Janja, climbing's golden couple, both on the wall. Adam Ondra and Jakob Schubert still to come after Domen. Janja is the last climber on the women's route, so we'll be able to watch, I would imagine, Jakob and Adam completely. The women's semi-final is going to finish about 10 minutes earlier than the men's. Finals tonight kick off at 7:45 Arco time. Before that though, at 6 p.m. we've got the speed finals, so a lot of action still to come today. Just to keep you up to date, going smoothly and seemingly without too many problems on the lower section of the women's route. There she is, bottom right of your screen. Domen just got that first jump done up to the pink volume. He's got one more pretty committing jump, and then it's traditional endurance resistance climbing from there on out.
Yeah, it's going to be fun watching Domen through this next bit. It's the kind of climbing he's good at, actually, so expecting big things from him. Janja on that bigger hold now, taking a bit of a rest, making the clip look easy. Locks in that heel hook. Will she go up with the right hand? I think on the whole that's the best way to do it. Yep, as we see.
As Domen, no problem with the jump and the cross through. Just a bit of a mind game from the route setters. You're making the climbers really commit low down on the route. We haven't seen anyone have any problems with it. And he's opting to take something of a rest. Janja just powering on through. I have to say, yesterday in the qualifiers, she looked at her best, which is worrying for the competition. She is looking so strong right now. Really didn't struggle with the qualifying routes, I have to say, and she was the only person to top one of them and the only one of 2 to top the second, so ominous for her competitors.
They're watching this now, feeling scared as Janja comes up to the crux section of this route. Domen as well into that area. We know you have to move a little bit quicker through here.
Would be nice to see a top of both routes. Janja, our last chance of seeing one on the women's side. After Domen, as I mentioned earlier, we've got Adam Ondra and Jakob Schubert still to come. But no tops as yet in the semi-finals. The key, of course, in the semi-finals is that we get 8 men and 8 women through without any ties, but if you could see a top, it's a nice bonus for sure. So Janja is into the final. You will be somewhat unsurprised to hear by latching that hold 35, and now it's just a question of how far can she go.
Yeah, there was no hesitation up to that jump. A lot of people had a look, saw Anak peering out at the hole, trying to find the good bit on it, but Yanya just no hesitation, straight up. Now where will she clip? She rotates her feet through. Again, watch these tricks she's doing, all to keep that body tension to make it through this negative roof.
See there, Yanya on the right, Domen on the left. There's Yanya again, silhouetted against the valley. This is where we saw Anak drop off. How far can Yanya go? She knows as well as anyone how crucial count back to this round, or even the semi-final, could be. If she can qualify for the final in first place in the semi, it means it's completely in her hands. It doesn't matter in the final if everyone tops the route, because she'll win on count back. Domen, meanwhile, he's got that crucial 37 plus move done, but how many times have we seen people struggling with that clip? Yanya Garnbrett now is onto the head wall in Arco, looking so composed. It's hard to believe this is the same route that stopped dead some of the best climbers in the world. She's setting a new high point. Is she heading for the top? Yanya Garnbrett, we see it so often, dominating a competition, and so far in Arco, that's exactly what she's doing. Can she complete a perfect semi-final with a top? She can. Fist pump from Yanya, and I have to say, she doesn't even look tired.
Thomas Gofik as well on the left and the bottom. Now takes the fall, but
that'll be enough for Domen.
Well, you were talking there, Charlie. I was literally just standing outside the tent with my mouth open watching Yanya on the top half of that route. She made it look so ridiculously easy, didn't look pumped. And where we saw Jessie fighting just before she dropped off, Yanya was very calm, even had time for a quick shake.
Well, women's lead climbing is strong right now. Jessie Pilz has made the breakthrough to becoming a World Cup winner. We know Anak Verhoeven is incredibly strong. But if you want to win a women's lead World Cup, that's the woman you have to beat. And best of luck, because it is not an easy task. She's topped all 3 routes so far that the route setters have provided her with. Nobody else has managed to top more than one.
Smiles at Domen as they both walk off together. That's cool to see. Little high five.
So there it is, Yanya Garnbrett top, Jessie Pilz, Christine Schranz, Claire Burfine, Anak Verhoeven, Manon Ely, Evgenia Kazmikova and Ellen Janiko will be your final tonight, and you could see that crucial 34 plus move. You had to get past that to make it into the final. Disappointing results for a couple of climbers there. Anne-Sophie Koller and Hannah Schubert might have been hoping for slightly more. Ditto Laura Gora and Ashima, who misses her first lead World Cup final. So 2 climbers still to go in the men's, and there's no point pretending that when Adam Ondrak comes to a World Cup that it doesn't change things. The whole vibe changes. He is the name on everyone's lips. I was talking to him yesterday, and it's a constant stream of people wanting autographs and selfies, and climbers like Alex Megos has to deal with that, but nothing like the volume that Adam Ondra deals with it.
I didn't recognise him. Didn't know who it was, Charlie.
He is looking massive, Adam Ondra, right now. He's been climbing bouldery routes a lot in Canada, and you can see it. He looks so heavy right now, but he's got the power to go with it.
Yeah, he's just come off that 9B, so he's got to be confident. He knows he's fit, he knows he's got his endurance, and he was working hard at that 9B, so I'd imagine he's quite excited to try a different route. And this is a different route for him.
Yeah, he topped both qualifying routes yesterday, same as him and Jakob Schubert. They were the only 2 to get both of them. The interview I did with Adam, which you can see on the IFSC Facebook page, I said, how did it feel to be back on plastic? And he said, surprisingly good, because apparently he had a training session in Milano the day before yesterday and felt absolutely dreadful. But I guess if you're this good and you're this strong, you just know how to do it.
Yeah, he's got the pedigree, hasn't he, really? And I think everyone in the crowd here expecting to see big things from the big man.
Domen, by the way, 44 plus for him, so that's second place. So as I said, comfortably into the final. Sasha Lehmann still with the high point at 47. I think on the women's side, what is slightly ominous for her rivals is not that Janja Garmeret topped the route, it's how nobody else really got too close to it. We saw Jessie Pilz, Christine Schranz, Anna Verhoeven put up really good fights, but they came down looking tired. They gave the route everything they had. Janja not only surpassed all of them, topped the route, she looked like she had something to spare.
Yeah, very, very chilled up there.
Let's focus on the men now then. Adam Ondra, back in the World Cups, wants to retain his title from Paris when we get to Innsbruck for the World Championships. This will be his only competitive outing before then, we believe.
He just moves differently on the plastic from a lot of climbers we see, just a different style. I mean, we just said he's a very big man, and yet he moves like a cat, very delicate. Finding every possible purchase off those holds.
Matt, you and I, we're lucky. We've filmed quite a lot with Adam, and his whole movement, as soon as he pulls onto the wall, it's different to anyone else I've ever seen.
Yeah. The way he pumps his body as well, that screaming you hear, it isn't for show. He's getting aggression and energy into his body.
So he's moving up to this 37 plus move. And this is no gimme. It stopped Alex Megos. It doesn't stop Adam Ondra. He powers on through. 47 the current high point. So that's 41 for Adam. He needs another half dozen moves if he wants to set a new high point. He needs another 10 moves if he wants to top the route.
More importantly, he needs a clip right now. He's going to have to down climb.
He's made the same mistake with that lower clip. Dealt with it, I have to say, a bit better than Stefano Gasolfi, but still a waste of energy. He's going really well, and he's going to be in the final. He's done enough. The crowd in Arco will be pleased to see him tonight, but can he top the route? He can't. That'll be a 44, I think, for Adam, or a 43 plus. Either way, it's going to put him into 5th place as it stands.
I think even for Adam Ondra trying to hold on to that volume the way he did might have been impossible.
Sasha Lehmann's 47, looking more impressive with every climber that comes.
Adam gave me the best bit of climbing advice I've ever been given. He said, and this was good for me anyway, so let me know what you think. He was talking about resting, and he was saying you've either got to be moving or you've got to be resting. Don't be resting when you should be moving. So basically, if you get to a hold, and you know when you hang on for ages and you shake out, basically because it's a big hold. No, just go. Just move, and only ever rest when you absolutely need to. And it sounds simple advice, but it's good advice. It helped me a lot.
Well, he's qualified to dish it out, that's for sure. Adam Ondra into the final. In 2nd place, it was a 44 plus the judges have awarded him. That's the same score as Domen Schutter-Tanaka and Stefano Gasolfi. Count back to the previous round means that Adam moves ahead of them. So, interesting one on the men's side of things here. Sasha Lehmann, Adam Ondra, Domen Skofic, Schutter-Tanaka, Stefano Gasolfi, Alberto Hines Lopez, Hyunbin Min, the top 7, they're all going to the final tonight. Currently in 8th place, potentially in the drop zone, should Jakob Schubert go well here, is Romain Desgrange. Sean Bailey is narrowly missing out, he's currently 9th. So to make his way into the final, Jakob needs a 39, so we've seen that move out, the 37 plus move, that slep out left, that's a hole 38. So if he can get to the next hold after that and control it, that's his place in the final.
Jakob Schubert, of course, all round good at everything, including outdoor climbing.
Worst result in the lead so far this season in 3 World Cups. He's 4th. He's had a 1st, a 2nd, and a 4th. Gunning for a hat-trick of overall World Cup titles this year. Jakob Schubert. Work to do here in Arco, though. Not won an overall World Cup title in the lead since 2014.
Yeah, the ret, of course, being able to be used by the athletes there Doesn't become useful the higher up you get, but down low just gives you a nice little edge to hold on, wrap a heel around, or pinch as we saw him do there using that blue hold.
You can see what good shape Jakob Schubert's in. There's not much excess there. He's had a hard winter of training, and Howard is paying off.
Yeah, it's interesting to see these athletes change a little bit in terms of their body shape, perhaps stepping up their training as we get into the season or towards Olympics, and Jakob, as you said, just looks completely different now.
No slouch on the speed wall either, Jakob. He slightly downplayed it when I was talking to him about speed climbing. Oh, I've been practicing a bit, yeah, had a go. Running at about 7.5 seconds, something like that. Somewhere
bad,
between 7 and 8, so I got sandbagged there, not for the first time.
Of course, he's training out of Innsbruck, and we know how good that facility is. Just having a little moment here, just shaking out. Saw him take a deep breath. I mean, he's no stranger to pressure, but it is a stressful position to be climbing in, coming out last in front of this crowd. You'd be sitting around for a while, getting more and more nervous.
Previous winner here in Arco, Jakob Schubert, in his 11th season of competing in Lead World Cups. Made his debut back in 2007. So really getting to the crucial section. He's still quite a few moves, dozen or so moves away from where he needs to be to book his place in the final.
Yeah, here we go, approaching this more difficult section. And that move there, we've seen a lot of athletes cut loose. No such thing from Jakob, reaches up very statically.
So as I said earlier, there's a crucial move out, the 37 plus move, off to hold 38. If he can just latch hole 39, even if he doesn't move from it, as long as he can control it and the judges award him hole 39, that is good enough for Jakob to get through to the final. He would displace Romain de Grange, who also scored 39 on count back to yesterday's qualifiers. Last minute or so, what's been a thoroughly entertaining semi-final here in Arco. Don't forget, 6 p.m. tonight, we've got the speed final for you. 7:45 the lead final, so a lot more action to come.
Great view of how bad that hold is there.
Yeah, and Jakob gets the clip done early. Seen that mistake made so many times. Stefano Gisolfi, by the way, has got away with it. He will make it through to the final, but used up a lot more energy than he needed to and could have got a lot higher on the route, you feel. Jakob has climbed his way into the final. He's knocked Romain de Grange out of that top 8.
Yeah, well, we're going to see our first top of the day. Can Jakob Schubert do it?
Sasha Lehmann, high point of 47, and Jakob won't match that. It's just get his confirmed score. Either way, he's made his way into the final. The winner last year in Arco is through to the final this year. And there's the crowd, understandably, as soon as the action's finished, heading straight off. The sun has actually gone in. It's a bit less fierce than it was, but still, I think the lake beckons for just about everyone there. So there we see the final results. Sasha Lehmann, 47, what a score for him. 5 climbers tied on 44 plus. Adam Ondry, Jakob Schubert, Domen Skofitz, Shooter Tanaka and Stefano Gisolfi. They will be joined in the final by Alberto Hines Lopez and Hyun Bin Min. Romain de Grange narrowly misses out 9th place, Sean Bailey in 10th. A bit lower down the order, winner from last week, Alex Megas is in 12th place, Thomas Yuan in 13th. Loic Timmerman set a good high point early on, first climber out, but ends up down in 17th. Marcello Bombardi, World Cup winner in Chamonix last year, is down in 20th in front of a home crowd. And disappointing day also for Team Italy, with Francesco Fetterata in 22nd place. Hannes Puman might have hoped for more, 23rd for him, and Jan Hoyer 24th. So a thoroughly entertaining semi-final here in Arco. Plenty more action still to come though. We've got the speed finals live for you at 6 p.m. Lead finals at 7:45. Can't wait. See you there.
See you later.